Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. You are in the right place. This is the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube, and I'm KJ.
Hello, guys.
And let me, in fact, I can hear my background there. Let me turn my mic off on my side. Good. So at least I know you can hear us. Hope you're doing well, man. This is a subject I've been wanting to get into for quite a while, fighting the pharmaceutical beast. And it's also going to be an open discussion. I like doing these. What we're going to do is I'm going to be talking a little bit here in the beginning. And my friend Dana Ashlie is going to join us here in just a little bit as well. She's going to offer a few things. And it's really an open discussion, just whatever you have to offer on cures outside of the mainstream medical systems. And I know that covers a lot. So that's why after I talk for a bit, Dana jumps in. I'm going to open it up to you guys. Now, I'm not sure how long Dana can stay with us today. Probably I'm guessing maybe a good hour or so with us. But that might be about it. I might go longer if we have a lot of people jumping in. But unlike myself, Dana actually has a life outside of YouTube. I might not have a life outside of YouTube come December 10th. I'll be doing a live show on that here pretty soon as well. Looks like YouTube's got the end game in sight, and it's not good for creators. So we'll get more into that stuff later and what the future is going to be for people like myself online. You know, they've wiped a lot of us out. So that's a whole other story. You guys already know about a lot of this. You know, as far as the health stuff goes, one of the reasons I really wanted to get into this is because I have a history myself. Some of y'all know I had a heart attack last summer, last August. And I mean, it was a year ago this past August. And that was a trip. You know, I didn't think I was in bad shape. But, you know, you can't tell by the way you look on the outside all the time. And they said it was genetic. So I'm adopted and I don't know my family history. So either way, it was a big one too. I have 2 stents in my heart. And they gave me about, I don't know, 8 or 10 different medications to take. And within a few months of taking those medications, statins and things like this, I did a show on this as well. But within a few months of that, I started having really hardcore suicidal ideation. I've never had that before in my life. I've always had a detachment to this world. I've always had one foot out of it ever since I was even a little kid. I've always loved God, known God. I feel, you know, believed in God, had a relationship with God. And even as a little kid, I never felt a part of this world. And I still don't, even as an adult. I've always felt different here. But besides all that, yeah, the heart attack was a trip. And like I said, the medications led to horrible, crazy feelings, a lot of depression too. It was bad for a couple weeks. And I just kept tolerating it. And I was trying to figure out where it was coming from. And, you know, then being a bit of a researcher, I started looking more into these medications, which I should have from the beginning. And I found out that a lot of these medications separately can all induce suicidal ideation and depression. And I was on 4 of them that could cause that. So, you know, quite the cocktail. And I was good with just dying. You know, it was a different thing than wanting to, you know, be in heaven, you know, with the Lord. It was different. It was just like, I hate this place. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. You know, not a good place to be. Although I am glad I experienced it. I'm glad I felt what that feels like. You know, I can relate to other people now with that. So I complained about it to the doctor, and what do you think they did? They put me on Zoloft. That's another thing I'd never been on, is an antidepressant. So they gave me meds that cause depression, then they gave me more meds to quash that depression. So I was curious how this stuff works, and I went ahead and went with the program for a couple of weeks. You got to take it for a few weeks to feel the effects. And I was curious. I was going to experiment and just see. And sure enough, in just about 2 weeks, I felt the effects. You know, I'd wake up at 8 in the morning, and by 11 o'clock, I was laying back down again, ready to go to sleep. I was a zombie. It wasn't good for me. So I did it just for a couple of days, and then I quit it all. And then I changed everything. I changed my diet. That's when I went raw food at the time. I've changed a little bit since then, but mostly vegetarian. So I changed completely and totally changed my diet. At the time, I'd quit nicotine because I'd been on that for quite a while. And I was already exercising, but I just started upping my exercise. And I started taking kratom. Some of you may know about kratom. We may hear some stories about that today. Some of you joining the show. because that's the other part. I'm not sure if I completely covered that, but I will be opening up the show later to you guys. I'll put a link in the chat. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts about, again, any kind of interesting cures outside of the mainstream medical system. Maybe you've had some experiences with this. Whatever you got to share, we're open and we really want to hear it. So kratom, I'm a big fan of. You do have to be careful with it, though, because it can cause, I've heard it causing in some people. I haven't really experienced it myself, but I don't take it constantly. But, it can cause withdrawal symptoms too. So you have to be careful with kratom because it is pretty strong, but it's all natural, which is awesome. And total pain reliever, all natural pain reliever. It's fantastic. It's so powerful. People have used it to get off of heroin. So it's pretty intense. Anyway, so kratom, all natural, I'm a fan of. Just be careful, moderation with everything. So I found my way through, and I'm glad I had the experiences I did. It just solidified my views on all of this, that, the pharmaceutical industry as it is now has been around for just within the last 100 years or so. Is that right? At least, maybe a little longer, but it's about 100 years or so, I'm guessing, give or take. The modern pharmaceutical industry as we have it. But what happened for all those thousands of years before? How were people curing themselves back then? They couldn't go to a doctor and have a prescription filled out and be given medication that man had created. They had to find their cures from the earth, from what God has provided us already. That's why throughout the years you've had mystics and medicine men, wise people who understood the earth and the herbs, even into witches. You go back to the pagans. I'm not a fan of the pagans or the witches, but even they drew a lot of from the earth, a lot of the cures from the earth. So it's been here all along, right? And do we really need all these medications that man's creating? You watch these commercials and they're comical. It's always families having a good time, or, people at the park, or couples sitting together in some romantic setting, talking about these pharmaceuticals. And almost all these companies have Freemason or Illuminati symbolism anyway, so we know it's all a part of the beast. And then throughout the entire commercial, it's listing all the horrible side effects. This may cause blood to squirt out of your eyes. It's like a guy with his arm around his girlfriend watching fireworks. This may cause you to uncontrollably shit your pants. It's like a guy pushing his child on the swing set. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so that's about it. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my own kind of experience with this and with the pharmaceutical beast system. And that's why I really wanted to open it up to you guys as well today and hear what you have to say. And of course, Dana coming on is going to be fantastic as well. So let's go ahead and get started with a few things here. I want to share this with you. I thought this was pretty cool. This is 40 bizarre home remedies that our grandparents taught us that actually work. I'm just going to kind of jump through a few of these because some of this stuff you guys might be already on to. I didn't know about a lot of this. Use garlic and olive oil for athlete's foot. Everyone knows about the many health benefits of garlic, but did you know that it can fix your athlete's foot problem in a jiffy? Mince some garlic cloves, mix them with natural olive oil, and then use a bit of cotton to rub this mixture onto the affected area between the toes. It's interesting. Potato slices for headaches. Ease cuticle infections with vinegar. The swimmer's ear. Olive oil for eczema. Hiccups with a spoonful of sugar. Says the legends are true. Don't get too overzealous with it because diabetes isn't something to mess around with, but this old-fashioned trick will halt the hiccups in their tracks. The reason why is because the behavior we call hiccups are actually just spasms of your diaphragm. So having a spoon of dry sugar will throw off the nerve muscles and cure the agitation. That's interesting, huh? Get rid of warts with duct tape. Treat acne with coconut oil. Coconut oil is fantastic. There's a lot of great uses with coconut oil. A little yogurt for bad breath. Bad breath is known as halitosis. It's a terrible thing to live with, but the cure for it's right there in your fridge. It's yogurt. At least 2 servings a day of this probiotic wonder, ideally a plain brand with no sugar, changes the landscape of your tongue so that it won't breed any more of the bad bacteria that produces the distinctive stink. Bug bites using toothpaste. licorice to eliminate corns. As I said, I won't read all of these. It'd take quite a while, but we'll bounce through some. I'm going to talk about apple cider vinegar in a little bit anyway. Ease your hangover with apple cider. That's something I use too. I use cinnamon and apple cider vinegar every day. I'll show you those. We'll get into some of that next. I just kind of want to show you a few of these. Constipation with beets, vodka for stinky feet, mix cumin, honey, cinnamon, and ginger for diarrhea, lemons for an earache, stinging nettle for hair loss, and cure nausea with olives, potatoes for spider bites, raw honey for chapped lips, garlic for allergies, buttermilk and ginger for diarrhea, treat styes with potatoes, avoid mosquitoes with garlic, yams for menopause, apples help the bowels, banana peel for poison ivy, honey for acid reflux, blackstrap molasses for constipation, pine syrup for sore throats. To make pine syrup, collect a cup of freshly washed pine needles and thoroughly blend them. Meanwhile, boil water, corn syrup, and a bit of salt. Mix this with the needles, then steep for a few hours. Keep this syrup in the refrigerator for at least a month, then keep it on hand forever to treat sore throats. Okay. Again, natural cures may take a little while, but hey, if the grid goes down, these will be good things to know. Anyway, oil pulling, eczema for bad breath or with an oatmeal bath. Stop your snoring, basil leaves and ginger for fever, golden raisins and gin for arthritis. Just gives you an idea of some of the different natural cures. These are the 40 bizarre home remedies our grandparents taught us that actually work. If you're interested, you can check that out on survivorprep.home. All right. But here's the main thing I wanted to kind of get into and talk about just on my end. Then I'll bring Dana in. And that's 10 evidence-based health benefits of cinnamon. If you haven't looked into this, we're going to look into it right now. But I take 2,000 milligrams of cinnamon a day. And then I also take, we'll talk about that next, apple cider vinegar. So cinnamon is high in a substance with powerful medicinal properties. Cinnamon is a spice that's made from the inner bark of trees, scientifically known as cinnamomum. It has been used as an ingredient throughout history, dating back as far as ancient Egypt. It used to be rare and valuable and was regarded as a gift fit for kings. These days, cinnamon is cheap, available in every supermarket and found as an ingredient in various foods and recipes. Cinnamon is made by cutting the stems. Okay, we don't need all this. I don't need to know how it's made. Let's get to the basics. All right, cinnamon is loaded with antioxidants. Antioxidants protect your body from oxidative damage caused by free radicals. Cinnamon is loaded with powerful antioxidants such as polyphenols. In a study that compared the antioxidant activity of 26 spices, cinnamon wound up as the clear winner, even outranking superfoods like garlic and oregano. In fact, it's so powerful that cinnamon can be used as a natural food preservative. Has anti-inflammatory properties, may cut the risk of heart disease, can improve sensitivity to the hormone insulin, lowers blood sugar levels, and has a powerful anti-diabetic effect. Keep that in mind for the diabetics out there. May have beneficial effects on neurodegenerative diseases, and it may protect against cancer. Helps fight bacterial and fungal infections, and it may help fight the HIV virus. It's crazy, huh? All in cinnamon. I love it. I mainly take it to keep sugar levels down. And then there's apple cider vinegar. Some of the benefits here. Weight loss. Prevents acid reflux. Helps with your blood sugar levels. Reduces cholesterol and improves heart health. It's good for skin care, hair care, metabolism, your blood pressure, healthy pH levels, relieves pain, diarrhea symptoms. It's even used in pet care. Interesting, huh? So that's apple cider vinegar. Again, I wanted to briefly touch on some of these because I know where I'm opening it up here in a little while to you guys. So I want to give you most of the time. So I want to kind of cover a few basics. It is really important to understand this because everything does work in cycles. And I think it's pretty clear we're in a very destructive cycle right now in the world. Some believe it very well could be the end, coming soon. And before that, if the Bible is correct, there's going to be some really hard times here. So we may really need to be, not just knowing this, but, using this, who knows, right? It's not to be not to be a doomsayer, or to throw fear out there at you, but just, speaking plainly and just looking around at what we see, even the things I've covered for years, it's pretty obvious we're in a very destructive cycle. And it's so obvious how wicked the pharmaceutical industry is now. And of course, most of the medical industry just wants to keep you alive, right? They're in cahoots with pharmaceutical. So we have to start looking at solutions outside of the beast system. So again, that's why I think this will be a great show. And it's going to be a lot of interesting stuff to share. So on that note, I'd like to, I believe she's already here with us, but bring in Dana if she's here. Let me see. Hey, Dana.
Hey, KJ. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. You had me laughing so loud when you said, when you were mimicking the pharmaceutical company ads.
I know, right? It's terrible.
It's so ironic how they portray this. Everything everyone wants, happiness in the family, positive relationships, while they're listing off, blood squirting out of your eyes, as you said. I mean, I don't laugh, but like I'm really grateful that they still require those guys to list the side effects. I'm kind of shocked that they do, and I'm glad that they do.
True. Good point.
It's always bizarre to hear them saying that in such a harmonious tone with nice music in the background.
I know, man. It's so terrible. I mean, my mom has always been a little bit of a hypochondriac, just a little bit, because she's always focused on her health. I mean, ever since I was little, even, she was always big time into nutrition and health, but not necessarily in the best way, following fads and stuff. She'll do stuff like that. It's not to downplay mom, but that's just, so yeah. So even with that, she's kind of been just addicted to the whole system, her whole self as well. And that's pretty tough to try to explain it to her. And it's almost feel like she might be too far gone. I think a lot of the older folks who are they're on like 20 medications a day. What can you do?
Well, again, it goes back to what you spend so much time exposing, which is the media and their overt agenda. And a lot of people just, if you ask them to question everything that is projected to them through the media, it's a paradigm shift that's too uncomfortable for most people to accept. So it's tough. They want to be able to trust their doctor. They want to be able to trust that these entities that regulate the government would never do anything harmfully to hurt us, when you don't have the background knowledge of understanding that the eugenicists of the early 1900s are the same people who run the pharmaceutical company. So you have to understand that to rip off that Band-Aid and look for something different. But you're also right about the hypochondriac aspect of things. Like I did, I was surrounded by a lot of people when I lived in Seattle who were all about the health, but there's, that sort of anxiety laden, I have to do everything right. I can't eat anything not organic. And it causes sort of a negative consequence too. But it's a balance, and faith in God is a big part of it for sure. Yeah. But the doctors, a lot of them are well-intended, but unfortunately their education was paid for by folks who don't really have our best interests at heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely. And it's just, that's why, again, where do we go from here? What are some in your own life? I mean, have you had any negative experiences with the medical system?
I don't go to the doctor very much. I've had a knowledge base about the big pharma and that whole world from the beginning. Ironically, my grandfather was a doctor, and he was very ahead of his time. And he used to tell my mom, "Don't give those girls, antibiotics every time you turn around." He was a rare bird and questioned everything. Unfortunately, he had heart problems, and at the end of his life, as they were wheeling him off into the surgery room, he knew he was going to die, and he's like, "Don't let me in here." It was really a dramatic, horrible ending.
Wow.
He sort of questioned them from the beginning, and he was right, you know. So it sort of left a seed of that in my mom. That said, the only real experiences I've had with any kind of hospital in my life was having my daughter. And I tried to have a home birth. That's how everything. Yeah. I had a doula, naturopath, or whatever they call them. I don't even remember the name anymore. It's been a few years, but and I had a doctor as a backup plan, you know. Well, 3 days after labor, 3 days of being in labor, I did wind up going to the hospital and having her there. And it was good for me to see how amazing the people at the hospitals can be, because although it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to pan out, they were wonderful. So I think God led me through that experience so that I would have a respect for it as well. It's you can't just throw out everything. If you want to have a car crash somewhere, there's nowhere better place to have them put you together than here.
Yeah.
It's just the acute, things that happen. But in terms of prevention, that's where we're really messed up. And so, yeah, between that and then my daughter having a ruptured appendix last year, wow, that was very traumatic. And they did a wonderful job. And I'm just sending flowers to the surgeon because she was so amazing, So there's a balance. But I like to focus on the other part, the preventative, and why are we all having autoimmune diseases? Why are young people having Alzheimer's? And this is the kind of stuff that I get into. And that's the stuff that, most people don't talk about. So well, I have way too much to say, so you might have to shut me up.
No, you're fine. Even on that subject, I've noticed over here in the Midwest, tons of commercials for freaking 5G. They're all excited to put us on 5G. And that's one area that, I wanted to talk with you about a little bit here is you actually know a little bit about a way to battle the negative side effects of 5G. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Because this is a constant source of, it's radiation. It's just simply radiation. That's what it is. It's called non-ionizing radiation. And the way that they differentiate the two is you go to the dentist and they put a lead vest over you because they know that ionizing radiation causes long-term health effects if you allow it to build up. But the FCC, which has no health department, by the way, does not acknowledge that non-ionizing radiation has any kind of health issues at all. Their theory says if it doesn't heat the tissue, you're good. So when they test your cell phone to see if it will hurt you, they're only testing to see if it increases the tissue of your body. That's it. Thermal is all they measure for. That's it. So the thousands upon thousands of studies that have measured non-thermal effects are out the window because the FCC doesn't actually look at anything that doesn't have to do with thermal increase. And that is a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy because there are thousands upon thousands of studies and so many scientists that are screaming from their rafters saying, wait a minute, this causes, I could list off the things to help encourage the people who are listening to make some changes in their own home environment. And I've gotten on to you about this because you're my friend and I care about you. Whenever you had your heart attack, I was like, have you gotten rid of your Wi-Fi yet? Because, if you think of the human body, we are electromagnetic beings, plain and simple. We are electromagnetic beings, and your heart is running on electromagnetic impulses, your brain, same thing. And so it only makes sense that these kinds of subtle things can happen even without thermal increase, right?
Yeah, thank you for telling me that too. I have made a change, so thanks.
You have?
Yeah.
Yay! I didn't know. Yeah, so many people are sitting with their Wi-Fi routers right under their desk. It's so ubiquitous. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it. But when you get a meter and you hear this, it sounds like a machine gun. You're like, wait a minute, what is that? And when you hear it alone, it made me like, a whoa.
Wow.
And so some of the first things that happen, and they say over 60% of people have problems sleeping in some sort or another. Interference with sleep is one of the first things that happens with electromagnetic fields. I could quickly explain why. If you know about them, you know about the hormone that comes out of your brain that causes you to sleep. Shoot, it just
Cortisol or melatonin?
Melatonin. So when you sleep, the pineal gland releases melatonin. Now, God designed us so that when the sun goes down, that is also a healthier form of electromagnetic radiation, actually, is the sun. It's on the scale too, but we're evolved with it. It's healthy for us, etc. But when the sun goes down, your pineal gland goes, okay, it's nighttime. I'm going to start pumping out the melatonin. But when you have all of these man-made and natural forms of electromagnetic fields, it doesn't know that the sun isn't down. And so it holds on to the melatonin.
Wow.
And so you're not able to get the natural melatonin to help you to sleep. And people are like, oh, I'll just take melatonin, no problem. But it's not that simple. Melatonin also does something very important to prevent cancer, which is to repair broken DNA. So if you're not getting the melatonin to repair the broken DNA while you sleep, which, by the way, Wi-Fi causes broken DNA.
Oh, wow.
You're setting yourself up in a position to be more likely to get cancer just from that reason alone. Now, then you look at all these young people, 20-somethings, that are getting colon cancer, and the doctors are like, well, why is this happening? It's a mystery. We do not know. Well, just go out on your next walk when you're people watching and count how many young kids have their cell phone in their back pocket. Well, hello.
Yep, that's true.
Absolutely causing this. So between lack of sleep, the cancer, whether it's brain cancer that is, increased 6-fold of people holding the phones to their heads. Wi-Fi also, and this is something else you're dealing with while I was getting on to this, that the sugar regulation, it messes up the sugar regulation within the cells. And so whenever they want to do a pharmaceutical drug test for diabetes, they have to get rats with diabetes, right? Well, how do they get rats with diabetes? Oh, they just bake them in wireless frequencies for a certain period of time.
See, that's the big one. That is the big one right there. I hope you guys understand what she just said.
Just 2.4 gigahertz is the frequency they use to cause diabetes in rats. What? That just happens to be the frequency that the FCC chose as the frequency that they're going to allow to be used for free. So guess what? 2.4 is in Wi-Fi, 2.4 is in your baby monitor, 2.4 is in your cordless phone in your house. So they chose the most dangerous specific frequency, and all of them are a little different, but all of them are causing non-ionizing thermal-free impacts with reproduction and all this. So I'll quit beating that dead horse there, but let's get into like what to do about it. I mean, you probably you realize that we can still have internet, we can still have, our TVs, smart TVs and everything. You just have to hardwire them. It's safer. It's actually faster. I can guarantee you they're not putting wireless in the White House because those can be hacked more easily. So they're using hardwire everything. I have all the same technology, but it's just hardwired. That's it.
Great point. Thanks.
Yeah, there's some things that you can't get away from when you go to work and whatnot, which is why it's really important when you're home, you're not adding to your burden with having that at home. I'm definitely good for people who don't know my channel, bookmark me, because I'm definitely going to be doing a step-by-step how to get hardwired in your home. What can you do when you have to go out? Stuff like that video. So it's going to be a real practical hands-on how to do that.
That'll be great.
Yeah. So, but when you talk about what's happening with a lot of people, the autoimmune, I've noticed, I've been into health for like 20 years. I've noticed two main things that are happening besides the now total submersion into wireless frequencies. And this, I think, was what they did to make their now plan to microwave us all more effective. And that is, one, they got rid of the minerals and vitamins out of our food supply. by making everything in industrial agriculture and by subsidizing the companies that are promoting the worst food and putting out of business the small farmers and the small, milk producers that were making good food, who understand that the soil is alive, who understand that you have to feed the soil because it is a living organism in and of itself. Our minerals and vitamins have been completely depleted in our food supply. And you're like, well, that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it is, because when you're not getting enough minerals, you are more susceptible to their next plan, which was to introduce heavy metals into our bodies. And I'm not going to say the CHEMTRAIL word because I don't want us to get shut off before we get started.
Yeah.
But those sky streaks, as I call them sometimes, are actually aluminum, barium, strontium, but aluminum being a really major component of these things in the sky. Now, that is totally in our groundwater. We're getting it every time we breathe. It's on the food. So aluminum, so whenever they make our minerals go away, we're depleted, and so we'll suck up whatever other mineral, whatever other substance that is mimicking the minerals is. So aluminum, mercury, fluoride in the water, these things our bodies have been more like sponges for because we were depleted in minerals in the first place. And so I've been putting a lot of time and effort into trying to figure out what we can do to get these heavy metals out of our body, because when you talk about Wi-Fi, let's just be real crass about it and say, well, what happens when you put aluminum in your microwave?
Right.
You get a very, obviously, it's much more,
electric charge, right?
Like that, but this is a more subtle version of that as we're walking around. I mean, the reason why when in the 80s, when we couldn't watch TV through, I lived in the country, so we didn't get cable. We had to get out the aluminum in a coat hanger and move it around so that we could get signal. Well, that's a radio frequency. That is a frequency that you're capturing with what? Metal. And so our bodies are now walking around full of metal, and we are literal antennas for this microwave frequency. So absolutely it impacts us in subtle ways. And that's why people like Barry Trower said, microwave frequencies are a perfect weapon against your own people, because it's impacting everyone a little differently. No one can really track it, but it's like a slow kill thing. And so the more you can increase your levels of minerals, natural, healthy minerals in your diet and in your water is really important, and then start detoxing those heavy metals, the less you're going to be impacted by this microwave attack that we're all dealing with. So some of the ways.
That's so powerful, man. I'm sorry. I just love it. That's one of the reasons I always love having you on, but please continue.
You're gonna tell me to shut up at one point, but
no, you're great. Go
I've been through so many levels of thinking I figured out the key to health, and each one of them taught me a piece of this, but it wasn't until I learned about the microwave aspect and the heavy metal versus mineral aspect that it all came together in this perfect picture of why I know people who are perfect with their diet. They don't ever mess up with their diet. They go to the gym, they do everything right, but they're still sick. They've got, and then you look inside their mouth and they've got 8 silver fillings.
Ooh, yeah.
Silver fillings are a myriad concoction of the most toxic substance known to men.
Do they force you to take those type? Because I went to the dentist recently and I have a cavity developing. So I told them I'd get back to them later, on what to do. But are they going to force me to put that in there? Or how's that? I don't know. How's that work?
Oh, do not ever let them put that in there. And it's absolutely insane that in America we are putting this not only in adults but in children. We're putting it in baby teeth that are going to fall out anyway. Dude, just let those suckers rot if you the white fillings. But no, this is the most toxic substance known to man is mercury. It's 50% mercury.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So that's something I had removed in myself in 2005, and I had terrible skin. I broke out for 8 years. It was horrible. Not my teens, but my 20s. And I had that removed. I started doing detoxing. I never broke out again. And I really feel like it's just another way to like burden your immune system. People are feeling, you remember in that, in the day, the Mad Hatter, that phrase, the Mad Hatter in Disney, or
Yeah.
show. Well, the Mad Hatter was a phrase that they used to describe the men who made hats, and the way that they made hats was by dealing with mercury, and it actually made them mad. It made them crazy. It impacts the psychology in really in incredible ways. So anyway, yeah, getting that out, and I just got back from Tijuana because I had dental work I had to do. If you want to go, you want to get some cheap dental work. I couldn't believe like how state of the art and amazing these facilities were in Tijuana. It was a real slap in the face to what we have to offer here in America. And it was a third to a fourth of the price of what we pay here.
Wow. Yeah. You told me a little bit, because I told, I've been in Tijuana myself, and, to me, it was just like, it was a circus. I mean, it was insanity when I was there, but I never went there for that reason. If you want to just tell them a bit, that's okay. Go ahead.
How long ago did you go?
Well, it's been over 10 years ago. I went with a crew from, it was a TV show called John from Cincinnati. They were filming for HBO. It was over 10 years.
That was I went a little longer ago than that, and I felt like the same way. I was like, I would never go there again. But when I found out about this, and the doctor here wanted to charge $1,800 for something, I was like, I can't do that. Like, I mean, and a good friend of mine had just gotten back from there and said that he had gotten like 8 or 9 things done. In America, they'll like do things real slowly, and they'll like milk it out because you have to pay for an office visit plus everything every time. And he went down there and they just got it all done in one go. And and it was amazing. So this place that I went to, they use the most things I hadn't even heard of in America. Like they give you a vitamin C infusion like in your arm to have during the procedure, because they know that vitamin C reduces inflammation incredibly. And so you've got this vitamin C going on. They had this procedure called the plasma technique, and they basically took my blood and they spun it, and they took the white blood cells out. And that's like a really powerful part of the blood, because it helps increase vascularization and makes things heal like many times faster. So they took that packet of the white blood cell plasma and put it in the tooth that I had to have pulled, so that it would grow back so much faster and without any pain or swelling. And that's exactly what happened. I looked up that same procedure in America, and it was $1,200 for one tooth. They charged me $100. That's
$100.
$100.
Wow.
I'm telling you, in this place. And so for people who are scared of Tijuana, like I was, because I went by myself, they actually, because they're only 10 minutes from the border, they sent a driver over to pick me up. If you fly into the airport, they send people to the airport to pick you up.
That's amazing.
Hotel for me, and it was the cheapest, most amazing hotel ever. So I'm like, I'm looking forward to going to the dentist for the first time in my life.
Yeah, that's great, man. Good. That's
But so one of the things that they do very well is remove that mercury from the teeth. And anyone who has that, you can't just go to a normal dentist here. You have to go to someone who knows how to deal with that stuff. And so getting the heavy metal out of the body, out of the teeth, not using aluminum deodorant, not using aluminum in your cooking. I know that's really inconvenient, but you just got to figure out other ways to do this. And so then by turning around and dosing your body with the minerals, you're going to improve your health. People have one person who watched my video, wireless warfare, which if anybody doesn't know about this stuff, that's a video that's got everything in it, the wireless warfare video. She had an autistic child who was so unable to, stop me if I've said this before, so unable to deal, there's an ATEX score in autism, and she was in the high 60s. And that means, screaming, banging your head, spinning, stemming, no eye contact, no verbal, no, she could say one word, can't take instructions. I mean, this poor child was miserable, and it was very, very hard on the family. And she said Holy Spirit told her what I was saying was true. She went and ripped out everything wireless in her house. Her ATEX score dropped over 28 points within 3 days of taking out that wireless.
Wow.
there is a doctor called Dr. Exley who had the opportunity to basically, look into the brains because these children had died, autistic children who had died. He was able to, look through their body and see what he could find. He found super high doses of aluminum in their brains. Okay, so what does that tell you? I mean, these kids, they're freaking out because they can't cope. The mercury or the aluminum is in their brain. And what we now know is that, so not only do we have this source of aluminum in the air, in the vaccines, if you want me to spell that slower,
I know that's another word they really don't like here on YouTube.
So those shots that they give, they make your kids have, and in the air and in everything else. So they know now that the brains of these autistic kids have super high levels of aluminum in them. And what do you know? Glyphosate, Monsanto, those guys.
Yeah.
Glyphosate, what it does, and we now know through the work of an incredible woman named Dr. Stephanie Seneff, glyphosate carries aluminum into the brain and drops it off. That's what it does. It drains the body of minerals and it carries aluminum directly into the brain. Now, how do you avoid glyphosate? You cannot be eating food that is non-organic, that is a grain like corn or wheat. It's chock full.
Oh man, really?
I'm sorry, but it's
dang.
true.
I love my corn tortillas. That's it.
They have them organic, KJ.
Okay, organic. Gotcha.
They're just, I used to be, everything organic. I'm not that way anymore. There are just certain things that I invest in to get organic and certain things I don't. But your grains are one of them because you're basically dosing yourself with the taxi cab that it escorts aluminum into the brain. And you start looking around, you'll notice that 20-somethings are getting Alzheimer's. What is Alzheimer's? It's aluminum in the brain as well. What is MS? All these things have to do with neurological issues that are happening in the brain. So one of the first things I learned about wireless is that it opens up the blood-brain barrier. So we have opened up blood-brain barrier. It makes it easier for that glyphosate to bring that stuff in.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow,
so
that's crazy.
It's a lot. And I sometimes, that's why I see you guys tell me when to shut up, because I don't like to overwhelm people. I like to focus on what can we do.
Yeah.
Definitely need to be working on getting stuff out. And you can do that by detoxing and fasting. There's a reason why Jesus said, when you fast, he didn't say if you fast. He said, when you fast, do it like this. Fasting is an incredible time, not only to get closer to God, but for the body to heal itself in so many ways.
Yeah.
So many ways. Your digestion is a very complicated, labor-intensive process. And I have a pretty high metabolism. So when I don't eat, I can't really sleep very well.
Yeah.
I feel my stomach turning. I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go down and just like pop something in my mouth and go back to bed because I can't. But so I thought I could never fast. But what I learned was that once you get over this initial hump, you have so much energy and you feel better than you do when you're eating. I have a video on that too. I want to encourage people to try it because we really are called to fast as Christians. And it's really, people think, well, I'm going to die. Well, actually, no, the people who fast live a lot longer than people who don't. So there's just a lot in our world about food. Our whole lives revolve around food and the meal of the day and stuff like that. I just want to encourage people to look into that as a way to start getting on top of their health.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I'm already kind of living that way. I mean, I bring in some chicken and then some fish every now and then, but otherwise I try to just always eat the sides, with side items. That's kind of what I focus on. But I'm intermittent fasting because a long time ago I had to let myself stop eating breakfast because I never was big into breakfast. Mm-hmm. And even now when I wake up, I'm not hungry till like maybe noon or 2 p.m. So I'll just have some coffee in the morning and flow that till about 2 p.m. Then I'll have my first meal, which is something small usually,
Yep. I got my coffee right now. Haven't eaten anything.
There you go.
I intermittent fast a lot. Yeah, I do it a lot. But people who are dealing with inflammation, fasting is a way to cut back on that. It increases the human growth hormone, which is that thing that we have a lot of when we're 18, and it goes downhill from there. It keeps us looking young and feeling vibrant.
Right.
Every time you fast, that your human growth hormone spikes, you know, and there are really amazing things that happen when we fast. But I loved your little list of things you were going over about what can we do, you know, to be prepared against pharmaceutical company, or things that we can do that are natural that really help. And I had a couple myself because I wanted to make a video called 5 Substances Big Pharma Doesn't Want You to Know About. And people who are preparing for, you know, what may be coming to America.
Right. You know, I think you and I are alike with that. I mean, the signs are obvious. I mean, you know, even our own gifts we have to see these things, and being alive at this time, it's like, to me, it's all very obvious. However, I learned a long time ago not to try to predict the future, because even Trump's presidency, I did not see that coming. I was convinced Hillary was going to have it. The end was going to be soon after. You know, it's like,
yeah,
you know, Obama would come in after her or something. I mean, I was wrong. So that's why I never tried to predict stuff. And I certainly don't live in fear or try to think that, since, you know, well, Jesus is coming back anyway, so why bother, you know, doing this anymore? You know what I mean?
I
like,
do.
We gotta live.
Yeah, I do. And can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
You got cut out a little bit there. Yeah, so I didn't know about you know, I'm one of these like you. I'm not into the right or the left. I mean, I know the right has a lot more truth to it and everything, but I can see the paradigm of that. That's part of how they're pitting us against each other, is that whole distraction. Holy Spirit actually showed me and I'd made a video about like that Trump was going to win, and everyone in LA that was my friend, because my friends were not Christian at all at that time. I left all of that when I moved away from there, but they were freaking out, and I was like, the Holy Spirit showed me that this is part of the setup for how they are going to turn people against Christianity further, is for a quote unquote Christian to be running America when it falls. So I have no doubt, and I'm not saying Holy Spirit showed me this, because he didn't. This is just based on what other things that I've noticed about this whole dynamic of trying to set up the idea of persecution against Christians, which Jesus totally talked about at the end, right? Is that, yeah, Trump will win. So all these different people we're seeing, this new age lady, I forget her name, and all these people that they're trying to say, oh, this is a viable candidate, this, it's all just, I feel strongly he'll most likely win again, because they have to have this set up for people to say, well, whatever America was doing at the end, we don't want to do that. Babylon, Mystery Babylon, I have a 3-part series on this, is America. I prove it with scripture, and it says she is fallen. Now, remember in scripture, in Revelation, it says that the beast hates Mystery Babylon. The beast hates the whore that rides the beast, right? And I'm saying the whore is America, and she's the fatted cow that will be sacrificed to bring in the New World Order. That's what I prove with a lot of scripture and stuff on my channel. But essentially, yeah, I don't think we should put our faith in men at all. I think we have one teacher, and it's the Holy Spirit, and that we're not to lean on any one person. We pray for our leaders, absolutely, but it's really all about just watching this unfold and having a close walk with God, being prepared, while also still having faith and not living in fear. It's a big, that's a lot.
I know, man, it is the whole thing. It's okay though. You know, it is a lot. That's why we try to keep it. I know you do too. You know, we found our ways to keep ourselves centered, you know, and not get too lost in all the madness of it, you know, because it comes at us from every angle.
No question. And the beast uses fear all the time to get its agendas across. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about awareness and preparation. And so I like to talk about this stuff so people can make different changes, and so that they're not thrown off guard when it happens. And I could even say, oh, well, look, the Bible actually said this was going to happen, you know, and it's only going to point to more truth to the Word of God, not less. So And he absolutely can protect those, or he is and will. And that could be that, we get to go be with him. Like, what is it? I forget the name of the scripture, but to be away from the body is to be present with the Lord, So it's like,
oh, yeah.
we have so much attachment, and I believe that the Satan wants us to think, well, it's all about this life, and we have to keep things the same, and it's not about this country being any way again.
I'm sorry, Dana, I lost you there for a second. You said we have to keep each other, keep them alive. And then you cut out.
It's people are very attached to this world. People are very attached to things being the way that they were before, and they're not going to be the way that they were before. This is an amazing time to be alive, though, And so, back to the topic at hand of the pharmaceuticals and how to have some substances that I believe God gives us everything that we need, outside of even prayer and miracles and things like that, that there are some substances that are incredibly powerful that are understandably controversial and sometimes even outlawed. And so I'll get into a couple of those. One thing I learned about was about 8 years ago. I had a dark spot like on my hand, and I was like, I didn't like the look of it, and I was like, that doesn't look right. And I showed it to my doctor friend, and she's like, you need to keep an eye on that. So and I'm very fair. I'm 99.9% Northern European, whatever. And here I am living in LA. So the sun is like not something I go bask in or anything like that. And I have to keep an eye on that thing. And so I found out about this substance called black salve. And the CDC has done a very good job of trying to kind of completely eradicate it. You can get in big trouble for selling it. But it's basically just a mixture of about 5 different herbs. And one of them is it's like a drawing herb. So it pulls out whatever's bad and it leaves alone whatever's healthy and good. Now, if you Google this, be prepared to see the biggest fear porn ever about why you should never use this. Okay. So whenever let's say somebody has a skin cancer lesion and they have to go get surgery, the way that they do that, as far as I think, is they go in and they cut some out, and then they test what they took out to see if it's in the clear or if it still has cancer. So they keep cutting and cutting and cutting until they get to the end of it, right? So it's sort of an experimental thing for them. They're like, okay, where does this thing end, kind of thing. And in some cases, if it's really bad, they have to cut pretty deep, and then they have to have a reconstructive person to go in and if they lost a lot of cartilage or like whatever, they have to go in and like fix their face for what they lost, right? Now the same is true with black salve. It's going to take out what's bad. And that may be more than you want.
Yeah.
In my case, it was my hand. So it was no big deal. I popped it on there, and I could feel this stuff like it was achy, and I could feel it pulling. I don't know how else to describe it. It was like this pulling feeling. And then it causes this strange scab. They call it an eschar. And the whole thing just pops out. Like, it's bizarro. And it was the size of a dime. It was kind of big. Right?
Wow.
It looked scary. But then after like a week or so, you keep this vitamin E on it, and you can't even see it today. Completely gone.
Wow.
I never had that tested to see if it was cancerous in the first place. I just had a doctor say that doesn't look good. But there are people who have had the diagnosis and have had the test of, cancer or precancer, and that it goes away. And so black salve is something I would figure out how to buy and just have it just because. Because if we're in the situation where things are falling apart, that could be a really great thing to have, to take care of things on your own. That's one. I don't know if you guys have heard, I saw some people in the chat earlier, I'm not looking at now, but they're talking about inflammation. And I know your issue with your heart attack, I wanted to mention. Have you ever heard about cayenne?
Yeah, I have. And I like that idea because they want to give me a medication that'll basically do the same thing. So
cayenne. Well, here's what I've heard about cayenne. All my years around health nuts and all that. is there are herbalists who they're like, okay, if someone put a gun to your head and said you can only choose one herb out of the hundreds or thousands of herbs that you have, which one would it be? Again and again, they pick cayenne.
Oh, really?
Yes, because it has so many powerful, impacts on so many different aspects of the body. In fact, my understanding is that you can use cayenne to stop a heart attack while it's happening.
Wow. Okay. How much should someone take? In fact, I'm sure they probably have it in capsule form like they do for cinnamon, right? Or maybe not.
No, you can totally encapsulate it yourself, or you can buy it in capsules. Absolutely. And a lot of people are told, oh, you can't eat spicy, this or that, and I have an ulcer. But the ironic thing is that cayenne actually is an inflammatory agent on a lot of people's upset stomach. It actually puts out the fire of the stomach, which is, it sounds totally counterintuitive. But that's one of the many things that it does, is it settles the stomach and it causes the inflammation to go down, not up. And so I would have people look up. There's lots of people talking about this online. If you look for it, how much to take if you're having a heart attack, I think you just mix it into a small glass of water and drink it. And people are within 12 seconds, or it's some 7 seconds or something, the pain is gone, because it has the benefit. Stimulation of blood circulation it's number one benefit. So the movement of the blood vessels is accelerated instantaneously. And so the nutrients are spread all over the cells much faster. It promotes a purification of the blood. It clears the plaque formation in the artery walls. The capsaicin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's capsaicin inside it. It decreases the plaque formation. It clears congestion. I mean, just look it up. Cayenne is an absolute miracle. My daughter sometimes gets those ulcers in her mouth. They're really painful. And this sounds insane, but if you take a Q-tip and you dip it in water and then you dip a little in cayenne and you put it right on that ulcer, it numbs it. At first it stings a little, and then it numbs it, and then it heals so much faster than if you just let it sit.
I love it. I'm going to start it. Like I said, I've already started. The inflammation, also cinnamon helps with that as well, so
yeah.
Cinnamon's been great. The apple cider's been fantastic. My last checkup was good, but I like the cayenne thing. That's a good idea. So thank you. Yeah. How many, I guess I'll look it up. How many milligrams?
I'm no expert. I just know that this is one of the 5 things I was saying you should put in your bug out bag for the end of the world.
That's a good one. Well, hey, I wanted to throw this out too real quick. So we've been going just about an hour. Okay. How long can you stay with us if I open this up for people to join us? Maybe about an hour?
I'm probably good for another 30, 45 or so. I'll play it by ear. Depending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That sounds good. Well, in that case, what I'm going to do, guys, is I think, unless there's anything else you wanted to cover first, Dana.
I have some things, but I don't want to.
No. Then please do, because your information is very important as well, and I want to make sure we get everything we can out of you. I don't want to keep you over your time today, but go a little bit longer, however long you need.
There's at least 2 more things that I want to talk about, because they are really, really powerful, and the government's coming against them real hard. Well, one is not, the government isn't coming against hard, but the propaganda of, there's definitely some sites out there that, are saying it's dangerous or whatever. And I just wanted to emphasize to people, they need to look a little deeper and look into the people of the work that are actually using it in their practices and stuff like that. And one is, we know that essential oils are the distillation of the nutrients of different plants, right? Usually mixed with alcohol or whatever. But there's one essential oil of pine trees that we all know the common name of as turpentine. Now, turpentine, we're all told, will kill you if you even smell it too much, and if, you drink it, oh, God forbid, you're not going to make it, right? Mm-hmm. So, but in fact, if you get the essential oil version, which is called pure gum spirits of turpentine, it is one of the most fantastic healing agents to get rid of what's happening with a lot of the stuff that they're doing to us. is that, again, because they've depleted our minerals, they're introducing heavy metals. And so what's happening is it's creating sort of a breeding ground for pathogens in our body, like candida, like parasites. Most people don't want to think about this, but I can tell you that probably 1 out of every 70% to 90% of people have some sort of parasite in their body. And parasites live off of our life force, and they leave behind stuff that's not good. And so and a lot of the nanotech that they're using also introduces these weird pathogens into our tract, our digestion tract. And so a lot of people who are suffering from Lyme disease, which is becoming more common and stuff like that, a lot of them have like a lot of different weird things going on with parasites and pathogens. And so turpentine is actually, if you pure gum spirits of turpentine, everyone, I would suggest to look up the work of Dr. Jennifer Daniels, because she actually was a doctor in America, and she moved to another country so that she could practice. She had her normal, she went to school in a normal, like Harvard. I mean, I was some really prestigious school, but she realized that everything that she learned in school was hurting people. And so she decided to go a different route. She got into the ancestry of she's African-American, and she got into like the cures that her grandmother and great-grandmother were using. And they all talked about once every month or every 2 months, they would line the kids up and they would give them sugar cube with a little bit of half tablespoon of turpentine on it. And the kids never got sick, kept them in tip-top shape. So she put a lot of time and effort into researching all the different benefits to this phenomenal substance. And she's got this whole thing about how to do it and everything. And it sounds absolutely insane, but I'm encouraging people to go out and educate themselves further with it, because I've used it myself. I'm a believer. And so I just want to pass that on. But it's pure gum spirits. It's not like go down to Home Depot kind.
Right. No, and that's great. I'm seeing some people commenting. I guess some people have been using turpentine and they say that it really does help.
Yeah, it does so many things. I won't even begin to give you the list. Now, the other thing is probably even more controversial. And this is something that when it hits the fan, I want to be the supplier of this stuff, because this stuff is absolutely incredible. It's called chlorine dioxide. And the first time I heard about it was I heard the FDA was giving some people trouble for having it. And anytime I hear the FDA coming against someone for a substance, I pay attention, because most likely it's doing some real good. And basically, chlorine dioxide is a substance that has been approved only for the purification of water. Now, chlorine dioxide sounds like chlorine, and it has some properties of a chlorine molecule, but it is a completely different substance. Chlorine is what they use, obviously, in our water and swimming pools, and that smell that you smell when you're around it. But the problem with chlorine is that it leaves some residue of some things that are not good for the human body. Chlorine dioxide, on the other hand, doesn't leave any negative residue at all. And in fact, it's a gas, just like carbon dioxide, the dioxide, that's a gas, right? Chlorine dioxide is a gas that whenever you mix it up, it only lives for about an hour. So you can't go out and buy chlorine dioxide. You have to get the two components, mix them together, and it creates this substance. So in my own experience, I've noticed or I've seen it take out a toothache in about 30 minutes that never came back. What it does is it kills, again, pathogens, and it takes out infections hardcore. I've talked to people who have cured their uterine cancer, who have basically, I mean, the list just goes on, and that's what makes it seem kind of fishy, because it does so many things. But it's because it gets rid of everything bad and it leaves a healthy tissue intact. Now, if you get online, you're going to see people freaking out and wanting to put people in jail for saying that this stuff should be ingested because they're saying it's bleach. It's not bleach. If you put bleach on a shelf, it'll last for 10 years, 20 years, whoever knows how long. This stuff, it's not the same because it dissipates into water and salt within an hour. It's a completely different substance. In Europe, the most expensive water purification centers, they use this because it's the best, but it costs a lot more than chlorine, which is why most people don't use it. So if you want to have it, even if it's just to keep your water clean whenever things go down, it's wonderful for that. But I can personally attest that people have gotten rid of some pretty hardcore things that the doctors told them they could never expect to conquer with this stuff. If you want to look up a particular person talking about it, I would suggest Dr. Andreas Kalker. I think it's Kalcker, Kalker, something like that. Someone in the chat will spell it right. But that guy is one of the few people who speak about it in an educated way. Now, here's why I think that the government's coming across it so hardcore. Dr. Stephanie Seneff, remember what I was talking about earlier with glyphosate?
Yep.
The substance that delivers the aluminum that they're spraying all over us into our brain. She recently discovered that chlorine dioxide detoxes glyphosate.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big wow.
Yeah.
And I think that is why they are vilifying people who are recommending it. There is a lady who has helped hundreds and hundreds of children completely reverse their autism diagnosis. Carrie Rivera, I think is her name. Her book was banned on Amazon because a part of her protocol is to help the children to take this chlorine dioxide so that they not only are removing that aluminum out of the kids' brains, but they're also killing all the pathogens that are in the guts of these kids because their gut system is all messed up. The problem with the VACCINES is that the blood-brain barrier is a gut-to-brain issue. And so many children who are on the spectrum or who have this autism, their guts are a mess. They can't eat properly. It's really messed up. And so she's having the moms do enemas with this stuff, and people are saying she's a child abuser, she's a sexual predator. I mean, it's horrible. Kayla.
Wow. Isn't that crazy? But just even in perspective, it just goes to show you how this devilish system that's been set up, how hard it will fight against truth in every form it comes in.
Oh, this stuff, they don't want this stuff out. They do not want this stuff. Would destroy the medical establishment. But they can't ban it because it's super common ingredients, guys. It's dirt cheap. And of course God would give us something like that, So the only way that people are right now able to sell it is through the loophole in America that says, as a part of your religion, you can do whatever you want. Like when a kid takes communion with a wine glass at a church, they're not going to put the parents of that kid in jail because that's a part of their sacrament, right? So there's a group called Genesis 2, I think. They took it out of the scripture. It's like Genesis 2, and it's basically some different people sell the MMS is another name for it, CD, chlorine dioxide, but they do it under the protection of the United States of America. They are calling it their religion. That is the only way that they're able to sell it. Otherwise, they would be put in jail.
Wow. That reminds me of, do you remember under Obama, under his 8 years, there were federal raids on people who were making raw milk and distributing it, and also on Amish farmers with goat milk? Remember all that stuff? Oh,
I was in LA when that happened, and I was actually buying raw milk at the time because I had to make this thing for my daughter because I wasn't making enough breast milk. So yeah, I absolutely remember it. They went into the raw milk. I guess it was a group of people. What's it called? Co-op. And they went in with black, gear and guns and took the milk. It's like, really? I mean, is that really necessary?
Yeah, man, that was some really scary stuff. Like when that stuff came out, and didn't make the news cycles 24 hours, and of course they cycle through stuff that's important so fast anyway. I'm sure that story was replaced by something stupid out of Hollywood, but yeah, that's important for people to remember as well. You know, it's like even Amish farmers. I remember that. You see these guys in handcuffs. Like, are you kidding me?
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are some really, really controversial but powerful things I wanted to spread the word on. I do plan on doing a video about it, but I'm slow. I'm not like you. You get so much content out, so I'm
Shucks.
to spread it through here.
No, hey, it's always good to have you on here, and your information is just priceless. And I know it's going to help a lot of people out there. And again, I know that. Well, I saw some people asking about borax. Boron. We've talked about that, right? We've talked about that a lot in the past.
Well, I have a video on it. People can watch that. It's got sky streaks in the picture, and then you can learn about it in detail. But I had a guy on whose business partner was the guy who built the HAARP facilities all over America. Now, the reason why they're putting the aluminum in the atmosphere, I think, has many purposes, but one of them is to make it positively, or it's actually a charged environment. We're taught in school that the air is neutral, but it's not anymore. It's charged. So with the charged environment, they can use the heart frequencies to manipulate weather and stuff like that. And so this guy worked building these things, and he came out and started telling people that, in fact, part of what's in the air are nanoparticulates, really, really tiny pieces of nanoparticulates, but they're not just like chunks of aluminum. Some of them are actually parts of this super high-tech stuff that can be, once it hits the acid of the stomach in the human body, that it actually can grow appendages and antennae and become a moving, smart being that can do different things inside your body. He said that the only thing that could keep these nanobots from actually replicating or forming in the first place was borax or boron. Borax is a little different than boron, but my understanding is that when you go out and you buy 20 multein borax, if you look on the ingredients, it just says natural mineral in parentheses. There's only one ingredient in that whole box. And so it tastes a little salty. You don't need much. It's just like, the FDA actually says it's okay to do up to a teaspoon a day for a 200-pound person, a half teaspoon a day for 100-pound person. So they're not denying that it's actually not safe through the FDA, but of course on the box it says, don't eat this, this is bad. They're protecting themselves. But the theory goes that through the ingestion of this mineral, it doesn't fare well for the nanobot replication in this process. So for that reason, the guy was attacked for coming out and saying it. And me, I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to give him I'm going to spread this.
I'm glad you did. That's super important.
Yeah. So I've been taking it. I've seen people have emailed me since I came out with that, and they were telling me some pretty neat things that it did positively for them. Supposedly there's 15, 20 different benefits to this mineral that's in this box. Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, hey, on that note, I was thinking again, just because I want to keep you as long as I can, and I know that we've already covered a lot, and we pretty much got everything you wanted to cover at this point. Would you say
those were the big hitters? Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, and that was a lot. So
it was all good. It was all good, Dana. Well, here's what I'll do, folks. I'm going to go ahead and over here in the chat, I'm going to go and place the link to join us. And this is, for you guys, I'm just going to open it up for a while, and whatever you have to offer to this, if you had an experience, if you tried some kind of a cure that was outside the mainstream that actually helped you, a story about that, any interesting cures, any kind of holistic healing outside of the mainstream system, anything you want to offer to share, that's okay. There's no guarantee we'll get people. We'll see. This is kind of hit or miss type stuff. It's also a totally different kind of group of people we're getting doing this at 2 p.m.
Right.
Time. Yeah, we're getting people across over in the UK. I know we're getting friends in Australia.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So they're still a lot of people are still at work, I guess, here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure that's it here. But that's okay. That's why I like doing these at this time sometimes, for, our friends that can't stay up till 4 a.m, for a 7 o'clock show. Cool. People are joining. Here we go. And to start off with Mary, and then Brenda will be next. Hi, Mary.
Hi there. How you doing?
Hey, great. It's nice to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
This is a pretty exciting
Oh, thanks.
show for me.
Oh, and Mary, just so you know, you're coming in real light. You're coming in real light.
For this show.
Hey, Mary, I'm sorry. I don't know if you heard me or not, but you're coming in your volume's super low. I don't know if maybe you can get closer to the mic or.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. That's much better.
Much better. Great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Hey, y'all. I'm really excited about this show. I went off of all pharmaceuticals on November 7th of last year. And so I've been clean from pharmaceuticals for a year, and I'm trying to work with my boys. I have 2 boys that were vaccine injured. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Were injured by industry biologics. How's that? And so this, what was it? The chlorine side. That's
Chlorine
amazing.
dioxide.
I'm so glad I caught that. Thank you very much for sharing that. But it's pretty scary how the pharmaceutical industry has infiltrated all the alphabet government departments like the CDC and the FDA and the HHS. And so that's what alerted me to decide to step away from that. And in my process, I started, of course, I had been reading scripture, and along the way, I discovered that pharmakia is the Greek definition for pharmakia is sorcery. And so, which just cemented my belief that I was doing the right thing. And that's about it. That's all I have to say.
How's it all been then? What are have there been some pretty dramatic effects or?
For weaning off of the medication that I was on, initially for a couple of weeks I was a little emotional but I tapered into a lifestyle that I'm clearer headed. I'm not as indecisive, and I don't second guess that gut instinct. That is, I believe, the Holy Spirit.
Good.
And I believe that the medication was blocking me from having a clear communication, and that's what happened. I can't say this would.
Mary, I'm so sorry. You're cutting out again a little bit. I heard you say that you felt the medication was affecting your connection with the Holy Spirit, but then it's kind of fading again. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. It might be my phone. But yes, I do believe that it was disrupting my communication with my Holy Spirit. Yeah. That's what I believe the gut instinct is. It's our conscience, which I believe for me is my Holy Spirit telling me what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And now I have a clearer connection with that.
Great.
I'm less indecisive, and I am just so grateful that I've steered away from the pharmaceutical industry.
Good. You broke the sorcery.
So, yes.
Well, also, I think, did you send me a super chat? I think you might have. Was that you? I'm sorry if you didn't. It's all right.
Yes,
but
sir,
okay.
I sure
want to say
did.
Thank you. Thank you. See, this first time I've ever used it in 10 years of being on YouTube, and I'm going to do a show in a few days ago explaining what's happening on YouTube and where we're going. But, now December 10th, if you're not earning income enough on YouTube, they can cut you. I was like, crap. So again, they're already suppressing my channel. I'm earning only a few $100 a month. So I'm trying something new, guys. So again, it's not a money grab, but thank God, if you guys understand that, and thank you for donating. It's fantastic. But thank you, Mary. I'm rambling.
No. I'm grateful that it was on there because I've been wanting to donate. Your channel has helped me wake up. For the past 6 years, I have been dedicated to watching your videos, and I appreciate you, KJ. Thank you, and keep up the good work. And with that, I'll let somebody else
All right,
speak.
will
Thank
do.
you so
And
much.
thanks, Mary. Have a good one. All right. Well, next up, I've got Desertants. After that, it's Brenda Weaver, Brian Murray, Tanya, and Matt. That's all up next. And Dana, I think you might be muted on your end. Okay, you're cool. You're good. Hey, all right. Dessert Trance. Oh, it's Dessert Trance. No way, man. Nice to meet you. We've been friends on here for a while. Dessert Trance, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, man. How are you? You there?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had an echo because I had the YouTube up as well.
Oh, okay. That's cool. No problem, man.
How cool. Personal experience is my sister had cancer when she was 13, developed thyroid cancer. And of all the kids, she was the only one born in Salt Lake, which they've connected to some of the nuclear testing they were doing in the 70s.
Salt Lake?
Uh-huh. Oh, no, excuse me. In Nevada, not in Salt Lake. Yeah, I just got corrected. If you look at the Nevada, you can see where the testing was done underground. And some of the white papers even say that they would go ahead with the testing when it was okay with the wind going towards Utah versus California based on population density and whatnot. Just very interesting things. But she was the only one that ended up with cancer at the age of 11.
Wow.
And the history of, my mom grew up in Argentina and always had a different way of eating, as far as more natural, more like always a lot of greens, always a lot of fresh food. And when the cancer came, it went into overdrive, so to speak, as far as juicing and reflexology. And we always kind of had a strange household with my Latino mom.
Yeah.
And, but always, it was very rare to have Lucky Charms in the house or any of the fun foods. But I'm so grateful now because it's helped me kind of have a clean palate always, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I learned that living out in Costa Rica. I just started eating the way the locals did, and I'd walk around the corner from where I lived and I could buy fruit right off the side of the road, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's where you learn an appreciation for beans and rice, and so I loved it. I loved it. I lost a lot of weight out there. I felt great, so yeah, good life.
How is your shoulder since that accident?
Man, that's been okay. Like that first year was terrible. I mean, I'm gonna write I'm gonna write a book someday, and I'm gonna put all this, even the YouTube stuff in there and everything before YouTube. But man, that first year was horrible because I was broken, literally, and I was in pain. And then you had the campaign online from trolls saying I was lying and all that, right? So, and that was the first big YouTube adpocalypse. So my income had dropped to, again, hundreds of bucks back then too. So in a weird way, man, it worked out because if I had stayed in Costa Rica, I wouldn't have been able to afford it out there. So coming back to America, it all worked out. But no, I'm all good. Thanks, man. It's, thank you. I'm good.
One of the worst things about that phase was when you had all your computers stolen and how much of your work we lost.
Oh, that was terrible, man. That my two oldest computers, had all of my old school, all my KJ. What was it? Scariest Movie 111 I had was another channel that got taken down, but I had all those videos. Yeah, man, that was my gun got taken, everything. They even stole my weed. I had some weed in there. I mean, but they my guns. Yeah, they had all the good stuff: the guns, the weed, and the computers. That's all they had.
Oh man, how long were you there? Was it a year?
No, it's about 2.5 years or so.
How cool.
Yeah.
Sorry to like reminisce, but as far as like some of the recommendations from your guests, she's amazing. We are in the same neighborhood, just not in the same house on a lot of these things. So it was cool to get a lot of new insights. But I'm brand sensitive, and if she would, it'd be cool to get like recommendations on brands like the Black Salve and that type of thing, because it's
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Go ahead, Dana.
Stuff.
No, I back when I bought it, I just was on all the health boards, and I would look at who had consistent results, and unfortunately, a lot of those sites have been taken down.
Yeah.
It might be that we need to go to other countries and it being sold elsewhere and just pay the shipping or something.
Okay.
But Black Salve has about 5 ingredients. It's it's definitely something. I should have found someone, but I didn't. I just wanted to talk about it and let people like kind of do their own thing. I don't want to promote anyone particular, but unfortunately, I don't have anyone specifically I can recommend.
Perfect.
You said brand sensitive. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, to me, like it's like a car. I mean, you can get a Hyundai or you can get a Toyota, and you always pay for what you get. You know what I mean? As far as quality or cleanliness, and especially in something that's you're gonna consume or use to detox, I think you should be very careful. I used to work in the health food industry simply to study that. And
yeah, Black Salve is one of those things that's so heavy hitting. No company has dared to have their own brand of it. The people that I found back in the day were herbalists that were hand mixing it. So cool. It was very low key, eBay, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. Like more independent, like almost an Instagram stream.
That's
or
right.
Something.
I don't know about Instagram, but I know, where I used to get it was people on eBay who I had seen that bought it before, and they posted pictures of putting it on their skin, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It starts ejecting the problematic skin cells, and it doesn't touch the good ones. So it's really bizarre. Like I could feel it at night. I could actually feel it working as it was cutting into the bad tissue and separating it from the good. It was amazing.
Was it like a mole at first? Because it didn't make sense. It was
my dog. Yeah, I was with someone who had a mole that looked really bad, and we put it on him, and it totally removed it. It was like a witch mole. It was like bad. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't on a face. It was on his back. So, moles that look weird and are growing into shapes that are not, what is it called, symmetrical, and have get going black. Those are problematic a lot of times. But the good thing is, we put it on him. We put it on about like 7 moles, and only 2 reacted.
Interesting. The bad ones, basically.
The bad ones reacted. That's right. It's going to leave healthy tissue alone.
I'm like you. I do anything to avoid going to a doctor.
Yeah. I mean, I will if we have to, but I just.
Well, 2 years ago, I woke up and I couldn't keep anything down, and nothing was coming up as far as bile or anything. And my sister called me, and she goes, "Israel, it sounds like what I was going through when I had my appendix burst." And so in that moment, I was not looking to heal homeopathically at home. They told me they needed to cut something out. I go, let's do it.
That's exactly what I just went through with my daughter. For what it's worth, if anybody has kiddos out there, if your kid ever has a pain at 7 o'clock as you face them and look at their belly button, do not pass go. Do not click $200. Like, get your butt to the emergency room immediately. By the time we got there, hers had already ruptured.
Oh, so wow.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I was so lucky. A question on something along the lines of staph infection. Like, I train a lot in a dojo, and staph can be prevalent sometimes. I've never had it. I'm very careful with cuts and like keeping my body covered up in gear when we roll. What would you do though with something like that? Because that's a blood type of issue, right? If I understand it right.
Dojo, you mean martial arts? So you're talking about like if you're in the shower and it's like
It's on the mats. Like some guy, one of my instructors, he actually had a cut on his head. He has a bald head, and he started getting a little bit of staph on the top of his head. But they always go to antibiotics, which I try to always avoid.
Okay, so in lieu of antibiotics, like again, that chlorine dioxide is it kills everything bad, like everything bad. So I mean, I even keep it to. I'll spray on vegetables. I'll mix down with water. You know, I would put it on if I was going to be around other people. You know, having a spray mixture of it on your feet afterwards, it can't live. Now, obviously, you don't need to have cuts. If you have cuts, you got to cut. You got to cover those up. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But another thing that I'll just quickly mention since you said it, there is an incredible substance called oregano oil.
Yes.
I call oregano oil God's antibiotic.
I agree.
This stuff is amazing, and it's transdermal. When my daughter was real little, she was prone towards trying to get ear infections, and so what I learned was that I could knock out an ear infection by putting a bandage with a little oregano oil on her feet under socks.
Wow.
So it would literally go through her skin and go into the blood supply and knock that thing out. Now, that's not always going to work for everyone, but it's a really powerful, powerful substance that is, I call, again, God's antibiotic. So I'm a big fan of oregano oil. Doesn't smell good. I think it smells like ashtrays. It's and to eat it is hard.
Exactly.
It's bad.
If you have a sore throat, that's like the test, because it will definitely clean out a sore throat right away, but you pay for it. It's a very strong burn. Do you ever use clove? I use clove a lot on my son's feet as well when he's got a cold with oregano.
KJ, you were going to talk about the wet socks for colds, remember?
Yeah, I'll just throw that out real quick, because when I started going over the list of 40, I suddenly realized, wow, if I read all of this is going to be like half an hour or so. But there's one in there I was telling Dana about that was really interesting, and this is an old school cure for a cold, where they take socks, they put them in really cold water, make them sopping wet. You put them on your feet, and then they wrap your feet together in a blanket, a wool blanket, really tight. And then you sleep with your legs slightly elevated, and that forces all the nutrients in your body up towards your heart and your core system.
How interesting.
It sounds so counterintuitive, but I've heard that works. Another thing that most people don't know about that I've been rocking lately is peroxide in your ears.
Yeah.
You can put peroxide in your ear, just the regular 3%, whatever. Tilt your head sideways, lay down, and put it in there. If it starts bubbling like crazy, like when you have a cold, a lot of that stuff is in your sinuses and it's all up in there. It can really knock stuff out at the beginning of a cold as well.
How cool.
If it doesn't bubble, then you're good, and it shouldn't bubble unless you've got an infection going on.
How cool. I mean, just for our little ones too, those are good little tests to do when they don't know what's going on wrong. You know?
Yeah, I mean, when it starts bubbling though, it is so tickly. I can barely take it.
Do you know what I feel personally? Like, I'm 40, and like I feel on a daily level we need to do a daily detox. And in the sense, I start off my day with apple cider vinegar, a half a lemon squeezed into it with cayenne, and it's such a cleanse, followed by, I have a mixture in my green drink I do, but I do a daily fast as well. I don't eat till 3 or 4, depending on the day or the type of training I'll be doing. And one of the main questions I always get asked, especially by the younger guys, where I become kind of a mentor for a lot of these young, strong 18, 20-year-olds, and it's a mixed gym with Muay Thai, MMA. We have a couple UFC fighters in there. It's a fun environment to train. But the one thing people always ask when you don't eat 3 meals a day, or you're not bulking, like you're not in a bulking stage or phase of life, is how's your strength? And for me, I had to think about it and like self-reflect. I go, you know what? I'm the strongest I've ever been. And in reflection, it is directly tied to when you fast, it allows the HGH levels to actually be made, or HGH to actually be made in the body. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Oh,
that's a good response, man. That's a good, reasonable response. I seriously thought you were going to say as soon as he asked that, you gave him a karate chop in the face.
That too. KJ. I have no problem.
Does that feel strong?
They call it the laying on of hands.
Like that.
Right?
What do you think?
Sorry, man. Go ahead.
No, KJ, that's called the laying on of hands.
Oh no! Oh no!
No,
man.
it's such a fun, humbling environment to be in, because like we deal with injury constantly, and like like you guys, I'm always looking for the natural, quick way, because I don't want a pain pill. I don't want. I mean, herb, KJ. You know, whether it's a sativa or an indica,
Yeah,
I need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, and I don't abuse it. I don't try to be zoned out.
it's true, man.
Yeah,
That's the tricky one, and I decided a long time ago to be transparent about my use, because I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel shamed by it, because I know that again, I've said it before. I only do it in the evening. Like when my day is done, I don't have alcohol. I don't buy alcohol. I don't drink unless I go out to do something, which is rare. But yeah, most of the time, I just, at the end of the day, that's my wine. That's my wind down. That's my take it easy. And like you probably get sick of the portrayal on movies and TV shows of the burnout dum-dum, that can't figure out where his car is. It's like,
exactly.
It's not the truth.
No, I mean, it's so introspective too. I mean, like for art, it adds so much. I have a friend who's in an 80s band, the One Hit Wonder, and
cool.
he's given us many, many great songs, do you know what I mean, through his catalog. And I love the way he puts it too, because he's in his 60s right now, and they've done the one hit, they're friends with the Psychedelic Furs. And
no way, are you serious? I used to love them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know the band The Church.
Yeah, of course. Oh, you're talking my language. We're close to the same age anyway. I'm in my 40s as well.
Well, Steve Kilbey, is the lead singer, and he's a vegan too, which is a path I could never go, because I don't think I'd heal quick enough. Do you know what I mean? But I respect his position on it and like how it works for his lifestyle. And at 65, you look at him, he's in amazing shape for a man. Whereas at that age, people start deteriorating and falling apart, and they have a belly that looks like they're pregnant as a man,
Oh, well, yeah. Have you ever heard of the Amazing Jonathan?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he's one of my all-time favorite comedian performers. I always loved the Amazing Jonathan. If y'all haven't seen him, look him up sometime. He's just a character. Anyway, I just saw a few nights ago on Hulu that they have a documentary on the Amazing Jonathan. So cool. I checked it out. Yeah, I'm almost halfway done, but I haven't finished it yet. But he's like in his early 60s, and he looks pretty rough, and then you start finding out that like what happened is he made millions of dollars working in Vegas all these years. Now he just sits around a mansion with his wife all day doing what they want to do, and he's smoking meth, and it's kind of like the trappings of success. It's like we always want, all the money we need and more, but sometimes when we get it, some of us can't handle that,
Well, and it does remind me, like one summer I lost three friends, and three different issues, like one to a suicide, one, well, I guess two were suicide, and then one had a heart attack. All amazing guys. As a man, like the one story, I go, he did this, but that's not him. And like the music we'd share, he worked in a Tom Music, and where I didn't have certain Radiohead B-sides, he would, and our collections would just mirror each other. It was cool.
You're a big music guy. Do you know? I'm sorry, and let me real quick say for those waiting, thanks for your patience, guys. Brenda, Brian, Tanya, Matt, and Tony. I'll try to keep like a 20-minute thing on everybody from here on out. I'll try to keep it that way best I can. But we're not getting a ton of people today, which is okay too, because it's in the middle of the afternoon. So we may just take some time here. But I'll throw this at you real quick. Sorry if I'm holding everybody up. Band I really like. They're not performing anymore, but you may have never heard of them. Have you ever heard of Les Savy Fav?
No, I'll look them up though.
Yeah,
definitely.
LESSAVYFAV.
Cool.
It's one of the best raw sounds ever. It's like I was missing Pixies for so many years, and they filled that void. They're like a more hard-edged Pixies, I'd say. But
how cool. Well, KJ, to not take away from the time of your guest, we should offline, if you want, discuss music, because with your projects, I have a studio and I do stuff, and I have stuff I could send and help add color. And then even with like Steve Kilbey, he'd be a cool guest for you on another path like this, like the industry, like what he's seen.
Oh, I would love that. Okay, well, here's what we'll do. Can you email me at thescariestmovieever@gmail.com?
We'll do, for absolutely. And then I got two thoughts, and I want to, I'll cut out so you can get to your other guests. But on those 3 friends that passed away, and back onto the subject of this gentleman you're bringing up, the comedian, the one thing I noticed with these people, whether it's money they've acquired, or they're the biggest guy in the dojo, or they're whatever form of like success we see on this earth, is they didn't have a connection with God.
Yep.
Like that's the biggest hole, like that God-shaped hole. No amount of money or women or friends will ever cover that up. And those 3 friends I lost that summer, as I was talking to my daughter, she knew each of them, and I have an 18-year-old daughter, and like it was so sad. And I go, Sheree, what was the main thing each of these was lacking? And I go, none of them had a connection with God.
Dang.
You know, that it's just sad, you know.
It is.
And the last thing I want to go on, and I know your guest was so awesome about her understanding about this, and I know it's right there tied with the Wi-Fi, which I agree with 1,000%. We shut off our router. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to hardwire our house, but blue lights, like the blue light influence of our screens too, like how much that works against the melatonin. That's one thing. Like I think a lot of people are so ignorant too, just with how we're a Netflix culture and we fall asleep watching our shows. We have our shows put us to bed instead of a book or the good book.
Great point, man. That is a great point. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, man, you're welcome. It's nice meeting you. I look forward to your email. We'll chat more, and take care, okay?
Bye-bye.
You too, brother. Thanks so much, both of you guys.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Dana, cool. I know you're still hanging. Let me know whenever you got to go, okay? Don't be
All
shy.
right, I'm just chat. I'm in the chat now. And
Good.
I can jump
I'm loving it. Okay, good. Next up is Brenda Weaver. Brenda, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing, KJ?
Wonderful. Thanks for joining me and Dana.
Hi, Dana. You blew me away.
Right?
Awesome.
all this stuff in my brain can help somebody for a change.
Well, yeah. We always learn. We are always learning. We need to know this info.
So how are you, and what you got on your mind?
Well, I'm great. I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm really into the natural medicines now, and I'm a forager, and I have been since I was a little kid. But I really started getting into medicinal values of stuff because of the doctors I went to. Really, well, they actually OD'd me at one time. And then I had a doctor who just was, hey, you want a pill for that? You want a pill for that? You want a pill for that? And I'm like, no, I used to be a drug addict, I don't want a pill for that. So I started going out on my own and started doing a lot of research. And I'm not on any medicine now. Like you, I had a heart attack 11 years ago.
How long ago was yours?
Huh?
How long ago was yours?
It was 11 years ago.
Oh, wow. How many stints do you have?
I have one.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, I've got 2.
Wow.
I'm one up on you. I know, man. It was a big one. It's crazy. And it's weird is, I don't know, like I said, mine was still pretty fresh, but it's just, I'll never forget the way they all looked at me when I entered in there and they realized what was going on. Like they looked over at me, and these people were looking at me like I should be dead, and they were treating me that way the whole time I was there. And I was feeling fine, like, oh, no big deal. I mean, it hurt for a little bit, but we're okay now. But, so I don't know. I don't take it. I don't know. I do take it seriously. I changed my life and my diet, but I don't sit around worrying about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't either.
Good.
But they let me go so long, I kept telling them, my arms are hurting, and, and they put a monitor on me, and they're like, well, nothing's wrong with you. Well, finally, I went in there, and my husband was like, she's staying. And I was having a heart attack. They were trying to send me home, and it's hard to see. It runs in my family with my mom. She died at 54. So, I just got tired of this whole doctor scene. If I have an emergency, I'm going to go in there, and the same thing with my son, and she's 24 and he has Down syndrome.
Yeah.
and
Wow.
he's the bomb. But, you know, if
Awesome.
something's going on with him, I'm taking him, you know, I'm taking him into, you know, where he needs to go, because he almost died this year.
Is he on a lot of meds, or how's that work? Or do you have him on any kind of herbal remedies for anything, or?
Yeah, I give him what I take, and, you know, I put my foot down with the doctors, because he does need to go to the doctor. You know, I'm like, you're not going to pill push my son. You know, and they were like, it's his lungs, and they're trying to put him on all this breathing treatment this year. And I'm like, this is more going on than his lungs. He almost died this year.
Wow.
Because they were like, it's his lungs, it's his lungs. And I'm like, look, I've dealt with his lungs since he was a baby. He's 24. You know, so sometimes, you know, when he does need to go to the doctor for certain things, you know, but his throat was almost completely closed in there, and they had to go in and laser it out, but he's great now.
Good. Good to hear.
So the natural remedies on stuff, I was already foraging in the woods, and you know, for mushrooms and food and whatever I could find out there, because it's my peaceful place.
Yeah, I love nature too. I'm surrounded by it. Luckily, I kind of live in a little thing just filled with trees, kind of a little area just filled with them. And so every window I look out, all I see is trees. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my place to go and spend time with God in the quiet.
Good.
You know, because it is his creation. So he puts stuff out there for us. But a lot of the stuff that's out there in the woods for us is also out there for us to buy. So, I mean, anything that I might talk about, you can get it online. So
good. All right.
Honey, number one. You know, honey is good for everything. You know, it's good for your heart. You know, it's good for being when you're sick and coughing. It lowers your bad cholesterol, and it raises your good cholesterol. You know, I really researched into the heart stuff because, you know, I went off. You know, I've went off of all of it, but slowly. You know, you can't just throw it all away and say, I'm done now.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, and like you, apple cider vinegar, I drink it every day. You know, and if you really look into things, you can make a lot of this stuff on your own. Apple cider vinegar is so easy to make and cheap. You know, cinnamon, just like you, I have that cinnamon.
Yeah, it's the way to do it. I've been getting good checkups, you know, and I know that has to do with it. So, you know, you got to try these new methods. And they still try to push me back on these meds they want to give me, but I'm like, you know what, as long as everything's okay, right? I mean, they're like, well, yeah. Like, all right, well, let's just see how it goes, you know. So I think I'm going to be okay from here on out. But go ahead. Anything else you wanted to share though?
Yeah, like there's something that's real good that I go forage, but you could buy at any health food store. It's turkey tail mushroom, and it's like the most medicinally known mushroom that's been, you know, tested and tried by even the medical field.
Turkey tail mushroom?
Yeah.
Cool.
That is a major immune booster. I do not live without it. I go out and get it in the woods, and then I dry it out and grind it up, and I put it in my coffee every morning. And when we're sick, I, which is hardly ever, but I brew up a tea, and I let it cook for probably like an hour. I've tried doing the tincture, but I quit drinking, so I can't make the tincture because you use vodka. So I quit doing that. But yeah, try tree tail mushroom. It's good for people who are going through cancer treatments, and because it brings your immune system up if it's low, and it brings it down if it's high. So
Good.
it modulates it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. But I just would say, get out in nature and see what's out there, but you got to be really careful because you have to know what you're getting.
Yeah, somebody in the chat had mentioned earlier, it may have been Taryn had mentioned grounding, and that is something since my heart attack I found out about, and I do. It's cold out here now, but during the summer, every time I drive out to the lake, just several times a day, or not day, but a week, I just kick off the shoes, and just walk around out there on the paths for a while and just enjoy nature and just ground myself to the earth. There's a lot of interesting science behind that as well. And that too goes back to what I was mentioning at the beginning of the show is we've only had the pharmaceutical companies as they are, over the last 100 years or so. So the thousands of years before that, how were people being healed? And I'm sure that's a part of it, with the Indians especially. I'm sure they knew about grounding, the power of the earth. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's called Be a Barefoot.
Yep, that's all it is. And just connecting to the earth, letting the earth help heal you. It's great.
Yes.
But go ahead. Sorry, is there any else you wanted to share with us?
No, I kind of just I just want to tell you some of the things that I knew, but you kind of inspired me because I think I do know a lot, and right now my brain is going because I'm like on the air, but I do have I've thought about posting stuff out that I do because I make a lot of stuff on my own. I make my own apple cider vinegar. I make my own almost everything. And I would encourage everybody to plant a garden, even if it's just a little bucket full of something or something. Start planting food that what you're putting into your body.
Yep, that's a good suggestion.
Seriously, you can grow the herbs in your home, in your window. I would just encourage everybody, just even start small.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Brenda, and thank you.
Yeah. So you inspired me to make some videos on what I know.
Oh, good. Well, you should, and let us know when they come out, and just be careful. I'm going to do a show on YouTube in a few days because the changes are really getting insane right now, and I'm having to seriously start looking at, the future of my work off this platform just in case. It's a very real conversation every YouTube creator is having with themselves right now after this new change of terms of service. But I'll do that in a few days and explain that more. But just be careful, man. It's almost like we can't even grow anymore as small channels on YouTube. Like they don't even have a chance. The only reason I'm still probably around, aside from all the prayer, is the fact I had so many subs when all this stuff started kicking in. You know what I mean? So
right.
Not trying to discourage you. Still do what you do. Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm going to go for it. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on.
Go.
There's a few platforms. I did. I don't have a computer or a laptop, so I do everything from my phone. But yeah. I mean, hey, you got to start where you can start, right?
Yeah, still do it. Yeah, get it out there anywhere you can, But anyway, Brenda, on that note, I'll let you go. But it's been a real pleasure meeting with you, and you had some great suggestions. So thanks for sharing.
Okay, thank you, KJ. You guys take care.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye. All right, man. Next up, we've got Tanya. Hi, Tanya.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. I called in last time. I'm going to try and not be so nervous.
Okay, great. I think you did fine, but no worries. So what do you have for us? Good to hear from you again, too. Nice to see you again.
I am a quadriplegic. I was in a car accident in 2007. And around 2010, I developed a pressure sore on my kind of where the butt meets the thigh, so kind of where I sit. So I've been battling this sore since about 2010. And I've had 3 flap surgeries on it. And each surgery is 6 weeks in the hospital and on antibiotics the whole time. And it just keeps reopening. And so they said, you know, if I want, I could have another one. And I said, no, I'm done with the surgeries because they're not working. It keeps reopening. So one of the ladies from church, she referred me to this this lady who does more of the natural remedies for stuff.
Oh, great. I was actually going to ask you if you ever went that route, so please continue.
Yes, I actually just started this year. And she has this machine, it's called a Pro Wave that I use. It's radio waves that helps heal the body of different ailments. And I started using the machine August 21st. And since I've been using this machine, my wound is actually starting to heal.
Awesome.
And it's repairing. It does some DNA repair. I've been getting a little bit more feeling back.
That's wonderful. And this is through radio waves?
Yeah, it's this guy, he was in a laboratory and by accident he figured out that certain frequencies killed cancer cells.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because I had read that a few years ago about all that research with these radio waves killing cancer. I thought it was interesting when you brought up how they're using it in your case. So go ahead. It sounds like you're already ahead of me on this.
Well, I didn't know about this machine, and I'm like, you know, I'll try anything at this point with this wound because I just want it gone and over with. And it's just, and she's healing my body through it's food in pill forms. It's live food in pill forms. Like I have Arginex and like sesame seed oil and stuff that she has me on. And it's helped my body tremendously.
That's wonderful.
And what she has done in just this little time, doctors couldn't do in years.
So is this something that, you know, anybody can just look into? Like, how would somebody find this kind of therapy? You know, who do they talk to? Their home physician, or are there clinics for this?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, by the grace of God, he sent me to this lady, and I got the machine through her. But the FDA really condemns this machine.
Of course, right?
Right. So
Yeah,
if you go, I don't know if physicians are going to help you.
Okay, that's exactly what I ran into with my doctors, and telling them I'm not doing their pills but taking herbal remedies now. You know, they don't like that, but and that's why we do it. You know, and it's not even that your doctors are evil, but this is their business. You know, like this is their money. And if too many people say, I'm done with this, I'm going to try something else, it's no good for the AMA. You know, so. But yeah, of course, the FDA is going to do that and come after these remedies outside of the mainstream that are actually helping people and curing people. Same thing they've been trying to do with kratom, you know, and some of these other kind of herbs out there that are really good for us, or that can be used for good outside of pills. So, sorry, go ahead.
And another thing, before this wound got out of control, it was just a little hole. And what we were doing, we were using 100% organic honey and putting it in the wound because it's a natural antiseptic. And it was actually healing the wound until I went to the doctor. And then when the doctor changed, stuff around, that the wound just got out of control.
Wow.
If I would have kept doing what I was doing, it would have been healed.
So where are you at now with everything?
I have a wound and then it tunnels. The tunnel is actually getting smaller in circumference, and it's starting to get more shallow too.
That's good, right?
Right.
Good.
And it turns out, because I told the doctors that, there's something going on with this wound because it won't heal unless I'm on antibiotics. And then when I went to this lady, she goes, well, I'm battling a bacterial infection, a viral infection. And then on top of that, my thyroid system was out of control. And now that the bacterial and the viral infection is under control, we got my thyroid under control, and my body is actually is responding well.
That's so great, Tanya. I'm so happy to hear that.
And I don't actually tell my my physician about her because I'm afraid of what they're going to say.
That's I'm sure that's probably a good idea. Just he doesn't need to know, or she don't need to know. You just keep doing what's working for you. The Lord obviously put this person in your life, it sounds like. So, I'm glad to hear things are getting better.
Yeah, this machine, it cures from cancer to muscular problems to bed sores to allergies, a lot of things.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Is there anything else on that note you wanted to share?
No, I'm just go the natural route, go the organic route.
I love it, man. That's exactly what I've been doing in my life. The way I eat too. And sometimes I'll crave, a bunch of red meat and I'll go eat it. And then I feel horrible. Again, this is just my experience because I've been off it for so long. So, but yeah, just staying off meat in general for me and doing the full on organic and vegetarian, it's been fantastic. Like it really does change your life. But, anyway, I'm rambling about something we're not even really talking about. I do this, Tanya. You have to forgive me.
I know. I watch your videos all the time.
Thanks. Well, it's really nice talking to you again, and thanks so much for sharing that. That is important information. How do you spell that again? Riach or whatever? How do you spell that?
The what?
The wave machine. How do you?
It's called Pro Wave, and my model is 101.
Okay, thanks. I thought it was spelled something else, but Pro Wave is what you would look for. If somebody's curious, that's why I was throwing that out there. Do you have any idea to tell people how to research this if they're curious?
I'm not sure because I don't know who out there knows a lot about these machines, but I just would say pray about it and have God lead you to it.
Great. That's a great advice, Tanya. And
because
thanks.
What happened. That's what happened to me.
Okay, good. Well, keep us updated, okay? And I'm glad things are going better. And thanks again. It's nice talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, and for everyone else waiting, there's 3 more people, Matt, Tony Truther, and Brian. Thanks, Tanya. Matt, you're up next, sir. You are, let's see, you have to unmute it on your side, and then we'll be able to hear you. You'll just have to look on the screen for the microphone or whatever. The microphone emblem. There it is. Hi there.
I just wanted to say that I've since 2013, I've followed your channel, and I remember for some reason, I was like, oh, it's really weird how Scariest Movie Ever's videos haven't been showing up, but I was able to find it like a year ago, I want to say.
Man, thank you for still trying to find it. I mean, it's just been insane. And again, that's what I've mentioned earlier. I'm going to do a show in a few days where I'm just talking to you guys, showing you the things changing on YouTube. And we have to start really thinking about the future here. You know, I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but the stuff they're putting in place is pretty much end game. You know, like they want to be another Netflix or Disney 2.0 channel or whatever it is. And it's just getting creepy. So we'll see. You know, I can pray all the time, but I've been feeling led to like just start putting my work out in a lot of places online, you know, just to get it out there. It's beyond making money at this point. It's just getting your work out there, making sure it's still available for all to see. But anyway, sorry, man. But Matt, thanks for watching so long. I appreciate it.
No problem. And and then at one point I realized, yeah, you started mentioning God in your videos, and I was like, yes, I think that's the, you know,
Man, I'm glad that you liked that. That was a really tough decision I had to come to, but
yeah,
I was
I could.
forced. Yeah, he made me. Honestly, I
Mm.
couldn't have kept doing it with a good conscience if I wasn't talking about God and Jesus. You know.
Man,
But thank
and
you.
it's just so admirable, you know, because I don't know, a lot of other like, you know, truthers out there. I mean, I, yeah, they just don't have God, I guess. But
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
sorry.
big problem. No, it's a big problem with a lot of that. That's again, that's why I never tried to be involved in a so-called truther community, you know. But so
Mm,
throughout the years, you know, I've known a lot of these people on just through emails and stuff, and then I've known people that have known them, have had experiences, and so many of the end times Christian truthers that used to be around and stuff, and many of them, it was all just a sham. You know, they were all doing it just to get money and clicks because they
wow.
saw the popularity of people like Jason A and maybe myself in some degree, and then other people out there that are popular. We're popular doing this stuff. And so there was a whole segment of people that couldn't give a crap. They would put that stuff up there and put a Bible verse in at the end. And I know for a fact a couple of them, I won't name them, but just stuff like that, man. So it's, you know, it's been such a crazy road. I could write a book just about my experience on YouTube, man, for real. Like it's been
Mm,
insane, you know, like growing the channel to the point it got to, having to deal with all the different changes and battles you take place on this, and seeing all the changes, seeing that we had such a heyday in the truth, so called, I guess, a few years ago. Remember, it's like we were the biggest thing on YouTube. That's why they had to wreck it and change everything. But we were everything on YouTube. You know, all of us were getting hundreds of thousands, millions of views, and
yeah.
new channels popping up overnight and getting big real fast. And
Mm,
you know, even beyond some of these people coming up, I didn't trust a lot of them, but even beyond that, I was still happy that there was some good information coming out in these videos. No matter what, at least people are still waking up, you know. So anyway, you got me rambling. See what you did?
I'm
It's all right. Go ahead.
So I'm originally from Japan, and the thing about the situation over there is that it's like an upside down triangle in terms of population. So there's a lot more older people, and because there's so many older people, and they're, you know, starting to like drop off now. They're making the doctors, essentially, they're not making them, but they're essentially providing this. They're provided this opportunity to try all these new drugs, and my grandfather, he was malnourished during World War II, and he has this like skin condition that, you know, essentially was a catalyst for his death, or his, you know, later on he passed away. But just to treat the skin condition, he was given, you know, they would give him a sheet to sign, like a piece of paper to sign, and say, like, it says probably like, you know, oh, we're not responsible for anything that happens to
Yeah.
you. And he signed a couple of those because, you know, as an elderly person who hasn't really grown up with the internet, and, you know, you only know so much, right? And so he would sign these papers, and he would go to these treatments and take uh, you know, pills for this and that, and then he ended up taking like 10 different drugs, and some of the drugs were just to deal with the side effects of the drugs he was taking. And, you know, he started to catch on. He's not like a dumb guy, so he's just like, this is, you know, getting out of hand. And he started like looking into it himself, and, you know, he would start protesting against what the doctors are giving him, and, you know, they would prescribe medicine, but he wouldn't take it at home, and that kind of stuff. And that really got my grandma mad, because my grandma's like, just do what the doctor says. But eventually, what happened was that his system was so overloaded that he had to be put on a dialysis machine, um, you know, he went into a coma, and he was put on a dialysis machine because his kidneys weren't functioning, and he was given 2 weeks to, you know, I guess put his estate in order. And during that time, I went back because I was studying in the United States at the time, and I flew back, and I stayed there for 2 weeks. And you know, once he was on the dialysis machine, they stopped giving him all the drugs, and eventually his body, or I guess the dialysis machine, cleaned him out. And you know, the doctors are like, oh, he's going to pass away now, but he woke up, and he lived for another 4 years until he eventually passed away at home. And you know, he, at that point, he wasn't taking any drugs, and he was sort of bedridden, but he was still able to like walk around the house. And that really opened my eyes. You know, I was like, that's weird, because we were doing everything that the doctors told us to do, and yet, you know, he's gotten better, and he was given 2 weeks, and he's, you know, God gave him 4 years. So I was like, huh.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is one thing that I haven't mentioned, is that when it comes to health and healing, even beyond, you know, non-traditional cures, so to speak, there is God, there is the Holy Spirit, there's him just purely healing you through the Spirit. You know, we know that's possible too. It doesn't happen in every case, right? Because I'm sure there's lessons for each individual to learn, and maybe they have to go through certain things to experience something else. You know, it's the way I always kind of figure it, why it happens. So, but yeah, that's a good point bringing that up, man. You're right, because that's another way we go to. That's the first place we should go to for healing anyway, is in prayer, right?
Amen. And so that's my grandpa's story. And I guess so I you know, I grew up, when I was raised in Japan, and you know, I was eating I guess a wholesome diet. And in the 8th grade, I visited some family in California for 2 months. And during that time, I guess the parental oversight wasn't as present. And so you know, like ice cream and pizzas and hamburgers, I was like, oh, this is heaven.
Yeah.
And I had my fill, and you know, I gained, like, I think 5 kilograms. I think it was like 8 pounds in.
Wow.
I mean, this was, yeah. And then I went back to Japan, and for some reason, you know, going back on the wholesome diet, I wasn't able to, I guess, like, you know, work it off or lose it as easily. And I started gaining weight to the point at high school. When I graduated high school, I was at a 29 BMI. Like, I was borderline obese.
Hey, I've been there in my life too, man. Trust me, I know where you're at. You know what's weird is the times of my life. I don't know. Do you know about body types? I'm a mesomorph. Do you know what you are?
I think I'm a mesomorph. That's the one in between, right? The ecto,
it's the one that can get fat real easy or muscular really easy.
Yeah, that could, yeah.
That's it. That's why I have worked out my whole life. But then I've gone through periods where I didn't, and then I didn't even think I was eating bad. Next thing you know, 20 pounds later, you know, it's like my double chin has a double chin. I'm like, whoa, how'd this happen? So yeah, man, I'm actually, that's all controlled in my life now since the heart attack. I've been basically 100% vegetarian. No, I don't want to say 100%. I'll say 90%, because I bring in some chicken and fish sometimes. But man, just eating fruits and vegetables and nuts. I mean, man, I'm in the best shape. 34 waist, you know, like I feel good. I'm looking good. But I had like a 36, even a 38 there for a while at one point in my life, you know, off and on. So yeah, anyway.
And so I wasn't able, you know, I think, so I looked it up, and you know, it's something called like metabolic syndrome, where your body is put into this vicious cycle of, like, you know, your body craves certain foods, and you take them in, and then it turns it into fat, and you know, repeat and rinse, or rinse and repeat. And so eventually, when I graduated, I came over to the United States to study. I started working out because for just to I guess get my life in order, because that was when my grandpa was like in a coma. And so I was like, oh, you know, I better start, you know, getting my life in order. And I all I did was just work out, and it wasn't really focused on diet or anything, because
Uh-oh, you gotta be careful because
Yeah.
we can turn into monsters too, man. I mean, I used to be at one point in the military. I was 210 pounds of nothing but solid muscle. I was 6 foot tall, so
Nice.
yeah,
Well,
man.
you know,
And it's like we almost don't even have to work as hard to get that muscular than other people, you know.
true. I mean, some of my friends come up to me and ask like, "Hey, you go to the gym, right?" And I'm like, "What? No, not really, but like maybe like twice a week." But yeah. But at university, I was going almost every day, and I lost 20 kilograms, which I think is like 35 pounds.
Nice. That felt good, didn't it?
Yeah, I did.
Doesn't that
And
feel good, man? I know that, and it's like when you finally, because I don't know about you, but I didn't go through fat periods for super long, but I went through a few that would last like 6 months, a year,
mm,
and I remember during those periods, I didn't even want to look in the mirror, and it was like after I lose all the
yeah,
weight again, I'm like, oh, there you are, okay,
yeah.
good.
And
I'm
you
back.
like and you run down the stairs, and you're like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
that
well,
felt
move. I'm not
yeah."
winded. This is great. Yeah, yeah.
And then so at that point I was just exercising and I was trying to get my life back, and then I met this girl, and it turns out she was a whole like, I don't want to speak ill, but she ended up kind of so eventually what happened to her was that she overdosed to heroin. And at the time I was like, oh, I'm sorry, so going back to the exercising, I would get my muscles like really sore, so I started like looking up stuff to relieve that kind of pain, and I started taking kratom, and it was working wonders. Like I felt better, like not just my muscle pains, but like overall like quality of
Right?
life
Wellness
super
in
improved.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then after I met my girlfriend, or my ex-girlfriend, and then she passed away, I got into like a really deep rut because in 2015, I think, yeah, if you were taking kratom, I think you remember, but like the DEA was like, yeah, no more kratom, and just that announcement, all the online vendors are shutting down, and I had no more access, and I was kind of freaking out. And eventually, I was just in a really dark place, and I became a drug addict myself. Um, and that, and then I
Well,
spent like a year.
which kind of drug was it though?
Oh, it was bad. It was heroin and
Oh,
cocaine.
wow.
And, yeah, it was not
Wow.
good.
Okay, well, man, thanks for being honest. Look, out of all the drugs, heroin's the only one I've never done. But I mean, I tangled with cocaine. Yeah, I worked in Hollywood for
Mm,
years, man, and
yeah,
it's,
I was
it's
like, oh,
not
this
just
guy
the A
knows.
list doing it. You know, it's like it was all of us scrubs that were working in production. We all partied really hard, So
Right.
yeah, I know what it's like, man. And that same thing, I've been able to, luckily, even back then I'd be praying because I can't hide it. Like, Lord, you see what I'm doing. Not always pray, just
Mm,
please don't let me like this too much. Please don't
yeah.
let me, you know what I mean? Like, even when I was
Mm.
doing stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, also, because I definitely think that people's spiritual lives and physical lives and mental lives, like all that amalgamation is what makes you. So I was not in a good place physically and spiritually as well, because at the time at university I joined this pagan alliance thing just to kind of like audit. But eventually I met some brother men at one of the meetings, and I ended up joining you know the the brother men, and we
What were the
were
Brothermen? Were they Christian, or was that more like a Masonic thing?
it was full on, it was Masonic, like this was at Philadelphia, and so they had the big temple over there,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so I
yeah.
was on a monthly basis, kind of like doing those things. And it was really bizarre because the Blue Lodge, they tell you, oh, you have all the secrets, and then there's like all these other branches, and then eventually I ended up joining the Scottish Rite, and we were okay.
Well, let
Yeah,
me
I
ask
mean,
you, Matt,
mhm.
this is great. I'm loving this conversation. Plus the fact that you'd lived in Japan, because that is one of the places that I want to go to the most in this entire world. So I plan on taking a trip to Japan before I leave this earth for sure.
Yes.
But
Oh, and please. Mhm.
oh yeah, and I'll let you. Maybe we can stay in touch or something, and you can give me some tips. But like
Yes.
I said, I'm fascinated with the culture, and there is Christians in Japan, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
Christian community there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And that'd be cool to go to a Christian church in Japan. That'd be a trip. I'd love it. But so let me ask you,
Mhm.
actually, sorry, man, I didn't mean to cut you off or anything. I just want to kind of toss that out there, but just go ahead and continue. Sorry.
No problem. So I joined the Scottish, right, and then they were like, oh, you should go and go to these churches, and I was like, oh, what for? But then they were essentially, I guess, like trying to soft infiltrate there was this new South Korean church that appeared in Philadelphia at the time, and because of my complexion and my background, they were like, okay, you go here. And I went there and I got baptized and I became like a member of the church. And, right after that, everything kind of like fell apart in terms of my physical life, and my ex-girlfriend passed away and I became like a hardcore drug addict, and all that stuff happened. And it was bad. Like there was a point where I was, taking so much drugs that I stopped sleeping for like 3 days. And I literally heard, my apartment at the time had pretty thin walls, so I would hear people like in the next room over just like talking if they were talking really loud. But I started hearing these voices that were were like, oh yeah, we should call the cops, he killed his girlfriend. And it was demonic. Like that's the only conclusion that I could reach. And yeah, at that point I was like,
I was saying, and I guess that sounded totally real, right? Like that's really scary stuff.
Yeah.
Were you able to ever go to any of your Freemason brothers about this stuff and say, hey man, I think I'm having a problem here? Or was it not that kind of vibe? Or
so I moved to New York for a job at the time, so I had no friends. And when I moved over, my girlfriend was still alive, so I was like, oh, I'll visit you every now and then, and I'll start making work friends and that kind of stuff. But it never really got off the tarmac, and never really that whole plan to like socialize and stuff. So I was absolutely alone. Although now I realize that Jesus Christ and God were just like watching over me, I guess. Like kind of like, whoa, don't do that, dude. But now that I see it's like, oh, thank you. But at the time I was like literally going insane. And then at one point I believed that, the voices were like, oh, let's call the cops. And then I would look out the little hole in the door and I would straight up see like shadows. It was really creepy. And then at that point, I went off the deep end and I tried like digging out my veins with a pocket knife. And then that's when I realized, like when the blood like fell out of my arms, I was like, no, never mind. I don't want this. God help me. And then I passed out. And then like 8 hours later, I woke up and I was alive, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's a sign. If
and the blood had coagulated, I guess, by then, right?
Yeah, I was amazed because at the time of my my hands were shaking. And then I remember like when I bent my arm to do my other arm, the blood just kind of like fell out, and I was like, and that moment I was like, oh, never mind. Oh, Jesus help me.
Yeah, what did I do? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so glad he saved you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And so after that, that's when I was like, okay, I better get my life in order. And just around that time, Kratom started, I guess, like appearing again online and stuff. And so I always felt that, I don't know if this is I felt that using natural things to kind of like get rid of addictions is totally like a-okay, especially in my situation. So I started taking kratom instead, and that totally, like, I had no with I guess like the only withdrawal symptoms I had were like loose like bowel movements.
Yeah, you're right. There is something that does that to you if you have too much. But go ahead. I've seen that.
And so I switched over from heroin and all that stuff to kratom. And in that transition, the only problem I had was like a sniffy, like my nose was all sniffy, and I would always have to go to the bathroom, but that wasn't much of a over time. It just disappeared. And I also I was looking up YouTube videos, and there's this one really nice channel called What I've Learned, and that's where I was first introduced to like like you're doing the vegetarian diet, and
Yeah.
you're doing you so I started looking into keto.
Yep.
Or like and then like first it was paleo and it was like low carb, but then it became keto, and then it like the whole like keto flu thing.
Oh yeah, I
I
used to do it. I lived on keto for years. I was always able to maintain my weight through it, that's for sure. But go ahead. But my cholesterol was always bad, you know.
right. I mean, right now I'm also like doing one meal a day, and I try to like fast every now and then to, I don't know, like, I guess, get rid of everything and kind of like close out all the hustle and bustle, and try to talk to God, or like try to get more spiritual. But
Yeah.
and during the time when I was still an addict, I gained like quite a lot of weight because my eating would be sporadic and it wouldn't be healthy by any means. So
Yeah, cheap. It's the way
yeah.
whenever I've been broke in my life, you know, which was only after YouTube, honestly. Like it's YouTube has put my life in a series of doing really good and then doing horrible, you know, financially. It's been that way for years on YouTube, but every
Mm.
time I'm doing bad and like broke, it was always cheap food, which is horrible. You know, like grab McDonald's, couple,
Mm.
hamburgers for $2, and so I know what you mean. I don't do it anymore, but yeah, I used to live like that.
Oof. And like at the time you feel good, right? Like when you're eating the burger, or then when the burger is in your body for like the first hour, it's like, oh, I'm so full. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
super temporary, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, I feel like trash now. But
Well, I have to ask you, did you stay in the Masons or did you ever get out? And what was that like?
so I knew that like getting out is, they would just kind of be like, oh, why? So I just stopped paying my dues, and they still call me like every 3 or 2 times a week. But
How long were
yeah,
you in?
I was in for 2.5 years.
So you made it past the entered apprentice then?
Yes, and I joined the Scottish Rite, and this was like, this was my jam when I was like at, my spirit life at the time was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Oh, more secrets, more.
Yeah.
So I eventually became a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason,
Wow.
and that's no, but then that ritual that they performed, where that was the whole like initiation into the 32nd. That's when I realized, like, hey, I mean, I knew, I was reading Albert Pike's books and stuff, and I knew about like how, oh, the G is for the grand architect of the universe, and maybe even Gadriel, and it's essentially like Lucifer.
Right.
And I was okay with that at the time for some reason, but like,
Because he's portrayed as the giver of knowledge,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
being
he
a
was
Mason
the
is
good
all
guy.
about becoming the God man, right?
Yeah, it's so cleverly, and it plays on your pride, and it plays on
Right.
your humanity. It's so perfectly made for deceiving people, because it makes, it's, when you think about it, it's just
Well, that's also how I've told people in the past, like on the show, that I believe we're living in a time where all the secrets in the lodge are being exposed through the Holy Spirit now, through people like myself and others. Like we're gaining this knowledge through other ways now, and there's been a lot of leakers. And that's the time we're in, and that's what happens when people see my videos or other people who expose the symbols. They trip out. It's like, oh my gosh, and they're like, it's everywhere, and I'm like, well, that's what they do with Masons when they bring him in. They're like, look, we basically run all this stuff. Here's this, and you're like, whoa, it's everywhere. Am I right? It's like the same.
yeah. And they make you swear these scary oaths, or like, oh, if I ever reveal the secrets, I'm gonna get cut in half and laid in the desert.
Right,
But
right.
I remember there was a Bible verse where it was like, make no oaths, and I was like, oh yeah, so this doesn't apply to me, or through Jesus Christ, I'm, all that stuff is behind me, or I'm not gonna.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, if you got
so,
Jesus, man, you're clean, and that makes me mad when I hear people act like Jesus, his sacrifice wasn't enough. But yeah, I mean, if you really have him, you're good, man. The same with all of us,
Amen.
Well, man, that's good stuff, Matt. That's all good stuff. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the whole like
Yeah, please continue. Sorry, man.
I'm sorry, but so I ended up losing most of the weight that I gained, and I started looking into all these like not I guess like holistic medicine, and I I remember seeing somewhere that there was this thing called like vitamin therapy where you would like I guess overload on vitamins, and that would I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, and I don't those papers are really hard to read, or they're real bored. They're a real bore to read. So I would just kind of like take it for like if the FDA says don't do it, like the last guy, the other people who were speaking before me, it's just like, oh, if they say it's bad, I think there's something interesting in there.
Yeah.
And so, and all these like little like small weird things that like, I was taking melatonin for the longest time, but I figured out that that's not good, but and so I would change that by using like lavender, and I would get lavender essential oil and like douse it on my pillow, like not too much, but like dilute it with water and like spray it onto my pillow.
That's a good idea because I'm taking melatonin every night. So please continue.
So apparently the thing about taking melatonin is that it is good in that it's like an antioxidant, and your body naturally produces it. But if you keep taking it every night, your body starts not producing it yourself. And so when you stop taking it completely, there's going to be a phase where your sleep patterns are going to be disturbed. And
well, see, that's where the herbal medicine for me will come in handy. Just hit a good indica or something before bedtime,
Yeah.
There we go. It all works out. Love the herbs, all of them.
For real. Yeah. And so I guess it's just like those small things that you pick up every, when you go browsing on the internet, like lavender and pillows. And I think there's this other one called there's this other vitamin B3, and it's better known as like niacin. And if you take more than 500 milligrams, you get this flush, like you get this, you become like really hot, and like your face gets all tingly and stuff. And
oh yeah, I've taken it before. I took it to there used to be this idea that you could take it and detox yourself, like for a marijuana test. And when I was in high school, I got in trouble. I got in trouble a couple of times, and I had to go take a test. And one time, I doused myself with niacin and drank a ton of water for like 3 days before the test, and I passed it. And then the other time, I drank a whole bunch of vinegar and a bunch of water off and on for 3 days, and I passed it. I don't know to this day how I was praying the whole time too. Maybe he gave me a break. But even back then, I was I had God in my life ever since I was a little kid. So he's been right there with me through all my shenanigans, So I would just be like, man, please bail me out of this one. He didn't out of all of them, but he taught me lessons that way,
That's awesome. I mean, okay. Just to make things clear, did you drink the vinegar straight, or did you make sure to dilute it with water?
I was doing both. I would gurgle a bunch of vinegar, then I'd gurgle a bunch of water. I'm not recommending this either for anybody, guys. This was like, many, many years ago, back when I was still in high school. Now, what they have is, and I used this at one point in my life also, my adult life, but they have this fake urine you can buy. You can go to a store. There's head shops and stores anywhere you go. You can buy this stuff, and you put it in a pouch, and you have to heat it up 30 minutes before you go in to take the test. And then and then you tape it to the inside of your leg. And then you go in to take the test, you pull it out, and you put the pee-pee in there, the fake pee. And it's funny, I was on the way to this test, and the only way, it was like in the other side of the city. So I went to a 7-Eleven, and I put the fake pee in the microwave at 7-Eleven and put it in there for like 30 seconds and pulled it out, wrapped up on my leg, went straight to the place, took the test, and passed with flying colors, So again, I'm not telling you out there to be deceitful or be little deceivers or evil or anything, but I'm just being honest with you with my experience. I've always had my faith. I've always loved God, but I've also always been a little bit bohemian and just a little bit, kind of counterculture. That's always kind of been the way I've been, but
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I went to Roman Catholic school, and so that was essentially beat into me. And in those kind of schools, I think there's people who believe in God and people who don't, and they would always have these weird debates out in the out in the playing fields and stuff. But I would always, I would always try to at least provide these arguments for God's existence.
Good, yeah. Well, he knows that. He sees it in us. Same thing. I was in a lot of sinful places in my life coming up, and used to be in the bars all the time and all that stuff. But even then, he was always with me. And even then, when I would get in any kind of a discussion with somebody, it was always philosophical and eventually always led to talk about God. So it's probably why I didn't take a whole lot of ladies home back in those days, but that's okay. At least I was talking about stuff that matters. But anything else to share with us, Matt? This has been really great, man.
No problem. So just like with Dana, I remember picking up in one of your live streams that borax is a good, I guess, to get rid of the nanomachines and stuff. And so I started doing that, and I don't know if this is whether it's a placebo or whether it's something odd, but I try to keep a dream journal, and after I started taking borax, a lot more, like almost like depending on the week or depending on the streak I'm on, it's like every single day I wake up and I am able to like recall like, oh yeah, that happened, and so I would just like quickly just like note it down, and right before bed I would review those notes, and and a lot of the times it's I don't want to say like I don't think God's trying to like tell me to do stuff or anything, but I think my dreams do show things about my life and things about my certain holdups and hangups. So I think for your your inside life or your spiritual life, I think it's a really good, or really it would work really well if you start taking a dream journal. But that's just my opinion. But
Matt,
God certainly talks to us through dreams and visions. There's no, it's in Scripture talking about that, especially in these times. This is what brought me into the fold 1,000%. But one reason why that may work with the borax is because I understand that it helps decalcify the pineal gland. Fluoride is trying to calcify our pineal gland. That's what it does. And so it makes sense that some people talk about the spiritual connection is in the pineal gland. So it makes sense that they would want to destroy that. You also can see the symbology of the pine cone and a lot of the stuff with the Vatican and things like that. There's pine cones everywhere. So that all kind of makes sense. And so that's cool that you got that as a side effect. I've had people email me with all kinds of benefits that they've been having. Keeping in mind that we don't overdo it. It doesn't take much, just a pinch a day in water 3 times a day. Supposedly helps keep this nano filaments from forming and this stuff that we're full of, this aluminum stuff. So that's great. I'm glad that it had that kind of good thing for you. Another way to help turn your dreams back on is to turn that Wi-Fi off at night.
Yeah. I try to do that, and I try to do that with my phone. But yeah, I'm gonna try to buy this like $23. It's on Amazon, but this like EMF reader, and I do want to see like, oh, what parts of the house I should watch out for, and like what kind of devices I should keep as far away from my brain as possible, or from my body as possible.
I wonder how much those go for. That's a good idea.
They're like 23. There's one that's really cheap.
It could be that there's one that cheap. I've seen some as little as like in the 90s that can definitely give you. It was great for me to get a meter because I realized I had sources of EMF that I didn't even know that I had. I thought I got rid of it when I turned off my Wi-Fi, but no. My printer that I never use, it's sitting in the corner, was acting like a Wi-Fi thing because it was wireless. Even when I used the USB cord to print, I didn't know until I got that meter. So people think, oh, well, it's why bother? There's Wi-Fi signals all around me. But if you do the measurement, you'll see that most of your EMF radiation you're dealing with is self-imposed in your own home. So I'm glad that you're willing to get a meter because that can help a lot.
Yeah, and I thought I would have to like dish out like a lot of money for one of those, but on Amazon there's this one cheap one. It's like Meturk EMF meter, electromagnetic field radiation detector, but it's $24.78, which is
it's almost so cheap that I'm
yeah.
I haven't seen any that cheap that actually work. One thing is like keeping in mind these are frequencies, right? So just like when you listen to the radio, you're on 104.7. 104.7 is the actual frequency that is being beamed out in the radio frequency world. So in the same way, these different meters measure a span of different frequencies. So because this is my thing, I was donated one that I was very grateful, because I probably couldn't have afforded it myself. But why I like it is because it has the widest frequency. So some of this 5G stuff that's going up right now is only doing 6 gigahertz, and my meter actually measures up to 8 gigahertz. And remember, Wi-Fi is 2.4. So just to give you an idea, most of the cheaper ones only do up to 3, which is still good, because you're going to see all of those things in your house that are running on 2.4, which is most of them. So maybe be sure and look at the specifications. If it makes sure, it probably goes from 300 megahertz up to 3 gigahertz. You want to make sure that it's not just like some little frequency of radio waves or something that aren't going to. Right.
Yeah, I definitely think that the band, or the amount of the waves it picks up isn't as big as something like 4 times its cost is gonna. But
yeah, but if you think you're safe because you're measuring frequencies that are too low to pick up the microwaves, then that's actually worse, because you're creating a false. You want to know at least up to 3 gigahertz.
Right.
Just look at that. Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Even the air conditioning.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was great. I was just sitting here listening. I'm learning. Sometimes I forget I'm on the show. I'm just like, oh, this is great, man. Oh, wait, we're live. Matt, go ahead, man. If you had anything else for us.
So recently I came down with a cold, it's more just like a throat cold. And I'm pretty sure quite a few people already know this, but I just do a saltwater gargle, and the next day I don't wake up with a sore throat. It's more just like, it just kind of picks off from where it started, how it was yesterday. Because whenever I go to bed with a sore throat, I always remember when I wake up, it's always worse. But
salt is amazing. We got to remember that salt pink salt and gray salt. Don't buy the white stuff; it's useless. They take all the minerals out and they put a bunch of bad stuff in there. But your salt needs to be it needs to be colored. It needs to be sea salt of some sort. This tooth thing that I just went through taught me again just how amazing salt is. If you think about it, salt is used to cure raw pork. Let's think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could take raw pork, salmonella infested, whatever bad bacteria, and it just cures it. So how amazing is that in your own mouth, where it's supposed to be the dirtiest place ever? So I think salt should be being used a lot, daily to gargle. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. I mean, in the What I've Learned Guys channel, he does talk about how if your body takes in, even if you drink too much salt, your body does have the mechanism to kind of flush it out with urine and stuff. And I'm not recommending people go out and drink only seawater. I don't think that's a good idea. But I think incorporating a hefty amount of that into your diet and into your lifestyle is
well, again, it's because it has those minerals in there that we're talking about. So there should be a myriad of different trace minerals available in salt if it's the good stuff. So, and in fact, you talk about seawater not being good, but one of the protocols for some of these people who have been curing their children of autism involves giving them this seawater that I guess this company in the middle of the ocean is going real deep to get the purest type they can. And these kids are drinking seawater as a part of their protocol to remove the heavy metals from their body. So minerals are key, man, so key. So getting rid of the heavy metals and the best minerals I've been finding is it's actually called fulvic and humic acid. And that's what the old farmers in the old days, when you take leaves, think about God's way of doing things. In a forest, it's perfect, but no one is there tending to it. No one is pruning things. It kind of works itself. But part of the way that God is feeding the trees for the future is the old leaves falling off, falling to the ground, decomposing. The worms help break that down. It's like this whole ecosystem within the forest with no one doing anything. And so our farms that we grow food, the soil is totally depleted or they're going to use some toxic fertilizer that's full of chemicals or what have you, you know. So the humic and fulvic acid, it actually is the decomposed plant material. That's what it's made of. That's how they get those minerals, I guess. They're not the cheapest, but some people are claiming, like Dr. Exley, who found all the aluminum in the brains of these children with autism, that mineral water, you know, like Avion is some people drink Avion like, ooh, that tastes gross. It's because of the minerals that are in there that they're tasting. Whereas with the humic and fulvic acid, I find it tastes sweet. It's black. It's super black, so it makes your water like kind of look dirty, but it tastes sweet to me. There's this other water called black water. Have you guys seen it, KJ? It looks like Coca-Cola in a bottle.
No, I haven't heard of that yet, but I'm interested. What is this?
Yeah, it's called black water, and it's basically, you look like you're drinking soda, but if your eyes were closed, you would think that you were drinking pure clear water. But yeah, so it's black from the fulvic acid that is in the water. So
interesting. And this is a good idea.
I have a reverse osmosis purifier that pulls everything out, which sounds great because it's getting rid of the fluoride and everything, but it's also pulling out the minerals. So when you do that, you need to put back in the minerals, and that's where I get these drops. I can put a link in the description of the ones that I use, but they're different kinds. You just want to make sure that they've been tested for heavy metals. To put it back in to get the best water you can. But he was saying that by drinking this kind of water, these kids are actually peeing out the aluminum in higher concentration.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Oh, also just one last thing before I go, because
oh, that's fine. And before you do, I'll shout out real quick. Tony and Sam are the next two left, man. So guys, thanks for your patience. We'll get to you shortly. Go ahead, Matt.
So when I was a kid, you know, I had the full round of vaccines, you know, MMR, and I took all the boosters and stuff until, like, you know, I came over until I was like 18. That's when I stopped. You know, I was like, oh, this is I don't need this. But essentially, in when I was in 9th grade, I caught whooping cough after I went to see after a urine examination that I took as part of my you know, obese like a body checkup. And at the time I was borderline obese, and my liver, the doctors were like, hey, yeah, you don't drink, do you? You're a 9th grader in high school, but how much do you drink? And I was like, I don't drink any. And because it turned out that I had fatty liver disease, which is, you know, that's a whole, and I think that's because, you know, either for that reason or for like some other kind of reason, my immune system was like really, really weak at the time. And I was diagnosed with a whooping cough. And it's really weird because I took the vaccine for it, and it was still supposed to be in the, you know, quote unquote effective like time period. Like I should not have caught it, but then, you know, I got it and I was like, huh, I wonder what's in vaccines then, or like, you know, but yeah, that's it. That's my last thing.
Well, that was great.
Talking to you today.
Pardon me?
I said it was great talking to you today. You had a lot of good stuff.
Thank you. And, you know, thank you guys so much for actually being out in the front lines of YouTube and, you know, disseminating information that we all should, you know, by all rights be taught in school. But yeah, because it's all you guys, really. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's so weird. We used to have an army of people looking for truth in all these different areas, but now when we look behind ourselves, it's like, you know, the numbers are dwindling, you know, quickly, and that's all because of the stuff YouTube has done, and it's also the psychological operation that happens when your channel doesn't operate the way it used to. People start thinking no one cares anymore, and they just start giving up, you know. Yeah. So anyway, but man, it's been wonderful, Matt. Thanks so much, and God bless you, man. I appreciate everything. God bless you too, KJ and Dana. Hi, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Tony, thanks for your patience, man. You've been a trooper. How you doing? Tony Truther. And then
good. How are you, KJ?
Wonderful, man. How are you?
Everything's good. I'm glad you and Dana have this show going on, but I'm a little scared something might happen to the show after this.
Oh, you think so? Why? Oh, because it's covering something that matters? I know. I mean, exactly. Isn't that weird? I mean, it's weird that we have to think like that. But I mean, again, I really am my own prayer warrior, and I I don't ask enough for the prayer from the people. I probably should, but that's what helps. I really think that's the only reason my channel's still here. And that's why, like I said, I'm going to do a whole show on this in the next few days about just the experience, that a lot of us.
I love the last show you did, the one about the demons.
Thanks, man. So I'm sorry, but go ahead though. I appreciate it.
Did we lose him?
I don't know. We might have. Tony, are you there? Tony, I hear a keyboard pressing, but that's it.
That was me. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. No problem.
I'm busy in the chat.
Hey,
I can talk until he comes back on if you wanted. There was something else that someone asked in the chat about the benefits of oil pulling, which I have experience with. Have you heard about that, KJ?
No, but let's do it. In fact, real quick, Tony, whenever because it's on your end, I can't hear you, man. But once you figure it out, just jump back in with us, okay? And we're going to let Dana educate us a little bit until then.
Well, apparently, oil pulling has a very, very long lineage of hundreds, if not thousands of years. And the theory goes that when you wake up in the morning, if you take some kind of oil, now I prefer coconut oil because I like the taste of it much better than sesame oil, which some people talk about. But when you first wake up, and you can even put it right by your bed, because I'm usually heading for the coffee machine not long after that. But it takes me 20 minutes or so to get all that together to make coffee. So you're going to be swishing this oil around in your mouth for as long as you can. And usually people find that because you're making saliva in your mouth, it kind of builds up. So you want to just keep that oil moving around. And the philosophy basically states that this oil has a drawing out process somehow through the detox mechanisms of the body. It basically pulls out a lot of the nasty stuff that, when we're sleeping, that's when our body's meant to be cleansing itself. And so somehow it pulls the oil, pulls the pathogens and microbes and bad stuff out of the glands in your mouth. And then you want to treat that stuff like it's ready for the toxic dump. You don't even want to put it in your sink. It's better to spit it in the trash, But if you look at there's tons of videos about this on YouTube, but if you look at people's teeth and what it does to the teeth, it's kind of amazing, because I found that using it almost creates this sort of, it makes your teeth less porous in a way, and sort of gives it a protective coating on your teeth. And I was happy to hear you earlier say how great coconut oil is. It's pretty much all I use. I use it a ton in cooking, and really good olive oil for not heat cooking and stuff like that. But butter, grass-fed butter, coconut oil, and olive oil are all that I use, and I use a ton of it. But if you didn't know, there's some disinformation flying around trying to throw coconut oil under the bus again, and it's all disinfo and totally wrong, because coconut oil has so many phenomenal properties that make it really valuable. One is it fights fungus in the body, fights bad bacteria, pathogens. They don't stand a chance with this stuff. And so for whatever reason, they're picking on coconut oil. And again, that makes me want to go out and do it. So as soon as you get up in the morning, you put about a tablespoon, if you can handle that much, a little less if you can't, in your mouth. And coconut oil is really an interesting, for people who haven't tried it, it has an interesting property that it gets hard at about 76, 78 degrees. So I can always tell, if it's going to be a hot day, I'm like, oh, coconut oil melted, whether it's white in the jar or whether it's clear like water. And so you take a spoonful of it, it's going to be solid, but as it's in your mouth, it's going to melt real quick and turn liquid. So you just want to swish that around for 15 minutes at least if you can, and then spit that stuff out in the trash, and then immediately brush your teeth right after that. And it has totally turned around. Some people even claim it's helping with enamel growth. One person earlier in the chat said that she fixed her children's cavities by having them pull with coconut oil. For whatever reason, it just helps your body to get out of helps get this bacteria out of the way so that your body can help heal itself. So I'm a big proponent of it, and try it. I think what's also bizarre is that people's teeth turn whiter just from coconut oil. And they even look sort of like, you know how some people's teeth, they get a little transparent, like you can kind of see through them a little bit.
Yeah.
What I've noticed is it makes them more opaque, have that protective coating, and look whiter too. So it's that's a great little tidbit.
Thank you. That's great stuff, Dana.
Sure.
Throughout that, we lost Tony, unfortunately, but yeah, so sorry, Tony. I'm glad you hung in there with us for a bit, but who knows what happens, man. I mean, this is, the whole system gets haywire sometimes. I'm amazed we're able to do it the way we are anyway.
I know.
Crazy. But so I'll just go and move on, man. Sam's next, and then Brian, and then that's it. Sam, how you doing, sir?
Couldn't be better. It's great to hear your voice again, KJ.
Man,
so
you got that voice, man. You got. People say I got that voice. I say you got that voice. But go ahead.
Listen, man. Just think about the number of lives that are going to be transformed by this. I'm so glad
Thank you
that y'all are doing this. No, I mean, as I have mentioned to you, I was diagnosed with a non-contagious terminal illness that most people die from within a year. And there's no cure for it, but I am being cured of it. I'm not supposed to be able to walk or talk, or it's basically like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's put together. But I keep improving, and I'll be the first person in the world cured of this. And there were a lot of doctors, but Frank Schallenberger, MD, was recommended to me, and I'm so thankful that I found him. I'm in his clinic 4 days a week. I even moved to Carson City, Nevada, in order to be at his clinic 4 days a week to get cured of this. He is also curing at the same time Lyme disease, which has it's amazing. It used to be hundreds of thousands of people. Now it's millions of people in this country. Most of them don't even know they have it. But anyway, I think Frank Schallenberger, MD's newsletter, it addresses all of this stuff. Everything you can think of, all these natural remedies, they're all addressed in his newsletter. He's been practicing 49 years. He doesn't need people's money. He's just trying to help people. But some of the supplements, there are a lot of people that have put on a lot of body fat. And one of the reasons for that, at least in males, is that their estrogen level is extremely high. And the way to solve that is very cheap. It's like $13 on Amazon. This Pure Encapsulations is one of the vitamin companies that's really good. And so this is zinc citrate by Pure Encapsulations, $13 on Amazon. And this will help what it does, it normalizes your estrogen. You keep what you need, but it gets rid of what you don't need. And every male's estrogen, doctors, most of them are wimps, and they refuse to measure a male's estrogen. And they're afraid of testosterone. They think it's evil. They think it's steroids. It is not steroids. Steroids are a pretty bad deal. But did
you know where I live, they advertise constantly about these special kind of clinics out here that only do testosterone, and every commercial's like, hey guys, failing in the bedroom again, come check this out. And apparently it's like really expensive and the whole thing, but yeah, they're always pushing it, but it's just one of these weird side clinic setups. I don't know. Go ahead.
So those things are extremely expensive. Those kind of places, don't ever go to one that advertises. What you need to do is find a mom and pop doctor. Like there's this doctor in Alabama, Gary Adams, MD. He's in Madison, Alabama. He's a guy, his wife was killed in a one-car accident in her Prius. It burned to the ground. And he had been retired, and he came back just so he can help people. But basically, you need to find a mom and pop doctor that's not afraid to prescribe you stuff. Become friends with a doctor that'll prescribe you stuff, because they can prescribe to a compounding pharmacy. All these people, they're charging $600 to $1,000 a month just to be able to get this stuff, when testosterone is $55 a month. I mean, it's nothing. So, an HCG, it costs a little bit more, but it also adds, you can do either testosterone or HCG, but they both are going to help you to lose weight and make you feel like a man all over again. I mean, with my being that I was killed in the hit and run accident, my brain injuries made my brain incredibly inflamed, caused me to have congestive heart failure. But with 10-pass ozone, I'm sure Dana's heard of that, 10-pass ozone infusion, doing that 4 days a week, It has made the inflammation in my brain go down, and it fixed my congestive heart failure in the first 2 weeks of doing 10 pass ozone. And my ejection fraction, if anybody understands, the ejection fraction normal is about 60, and mine was down to 19. And so now it's back to normal again, just from 10 pass ozone infusions. And that's also what's curing this incurable. Somebody mentioned Adderall in the chat a while ago. Its replacement is Mucuna Dopa, and I think it's by Source Naturals. I think you can get it on Amazon cheap.
What is that called?
Mucuna Dopa, Macuna Dopa.
Wow. Wow, man, that's interesting. Yeah, that's Adderall. That's some scary stuff. When I went to film school, everybody loved Adderall. Like everyone I knew in film school, and I was like 10 years older than all of them even there. But we played poker all the time, and everybody be doing Adderall, and even I would. Like they just give it to you. So we'd have these weekend poker sessions at someone's house, with just a bunch of people from college. Everybody on Adderall just spinning out of their brains. I still can't believe, I haven't done that stuff in years, but I still can't believe that was it's legal and that's what people are using, children. But that's just
a lot of people. I've met people in Hollywood, women who are taking it just to stay skinny. It's kind of like a form of meth in a way.
Well, that's where I got to stay away from it, because I mentioned earlier, I've been able to dance with a lot of drugs throughout the years and then walk away, but that's one I've always had to watch out for, because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the high, and I didn't feel tired later, the way you would think. I could just go to bed and wake up 8 hours later, and a couple hours after that, you're eating another Adderall, and it's another day with everyone at school, So
totally. I'm so glad to hear you bring up the issue with estrogen in men. It's a huge, huge deal. And unfortunately, I'm of the opinion that it certainly has been another way in which they are trying to, disrupt the natural connection between men and women, if you know what I mean. And not only what you were talking about, I've totally heard of that before, but there's another thing that has been being proved to mess with testosterone in men, and that's the BPA in plastics. So,
absolutely.
So the BPA in plastics is lowering men's testosterone. Have you ever heard of soy and its impact on men?
Absolutely. Avoid that like the plague. Soy gives you cancer.
It's not food at all. Bugs won't touch it. They know that the animals know that it's not something they should be eating. And I think these cows, like they don't have anything else, so they have to. But that's another reason to switch to grass fed, because even our cows that we are buying, if people who do eat meat, and I'm one of them, but they're fed this GMO soy, which is one of the worst things you can put in your body. So one thing I noticed, I had a friend who drank coffee like me, and he was always on the road all the time. He would have when he was up here, I don't do dairy because they were causing me sinus infections. I mentioned that in the chat earlier, but I switched over to almond milk. And so he got to doing the almond milk, and then he got tired of having to say that word. So he said soy latte. So he switched over to soy lattes. Within 6 weeks, he started growing breasts.
Yep.
Okay. From like 3 a day. He was doing a good amount, like that's like 3 real big cups of almond milk a day. And I noticed also, my friend, I published a magazine when I lived in Seattle. He was a vegan. He was super healthy, organic, everything. But he, too, was drinking the almond milk. And both of these friends of mine started feeling very overly emotional. My friend called me. He's like crying. And this is a dude. Okay? This guy is like, he does nothing but surf and mountain bike. That's all he does. He's in his van back and forth. That's all he does. He is a dude.
Cool life.
And truly. But he totally is a brother in the faith, and we study prophecy together and stuff like that. But he called me. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He's like, I can't stop crying. And I'm like, what? Is this the same person? I was like, and I'm like, what are you eating? And he's like, well, I started, and I kept probing until I figured out he was having soy. That soy created phenomenal emotional problems for him for about 3 months. He stopped it immediately, and he regulated and came back after that. But man, so between that and the plastics that are in everything, and people are wondering why our little boys are wanting to dress. I mean, sorry, but we have to question everything. This can be manipulated.
Well, have you looked at, look at the new Impossible Meat craze, which, I fell into because they just released it out here. I fell into for a few weeks. Then I did one of my stories, one of my news shows about it. And even in that story, I learned that it's all soy. So it's like, oh, great. So
Yep.
considering what it can do to us, isn't it interesting? There's such a big push on it right now. And there's always commercials on the fake meat. I was excited there for a bit, but yeah, unfortunately, it's another ruse, another part of the beast.
Soy, I don't believe soy is good in any form. Tofu, soy. Some say that the fermented soy the Japanese eat is why they're so healthy. I have to beg to differ. They treat it like a condiment. It's not like they're eating big bricks of soy like we hear over here in America. But no, there is no doubt that there's a manipulation of trying to make the men more like women and the women more like men. Both. It's happening, and you see the conflict between men and women in terms of this more domineering woman that you see, and then the men are told that they have to be more sensitive and weaker. And there's nothing wrong with being sensitive and connected to your emotions. However, it's totally being warped, in my opinion.
Oh, it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the whole Baphomet.
That's why I narrated the Rational Male audiobooks by this guy Rollo Tomasi that's been married 23 years, because men are killing themselves. It's 5-to-1 the suicide rate, and so millions of men have saved their marriages because of these books and audiobooks from the Rational Male, Rollo Tomasi, but also. People are coming to Jesus Christ because these audiobooks and books are stopping people from killing themselves, because it basically teaches a man how to act like a man, because they're not being taught that. A lot of the men don't have dads anyway that were manly men, because this has been going on for decades now. So the estrogen is high in our dads as well. And so men. Another thing for everybody for weight loss is hydrocortisone in a pill form, in a low dose, not the shots, but in a pill form every day. And also peptides like BPC 157. Metformin is a peptide. It's $4 a month. And the FDA has finally acknowledged that it's anti-cancer.
Oh, wow, really? I didn't know that.
So any peptide is not going to harm your system in any way. They're going to help you to stay low on body fat. Then I think they changed the molecule to make Victoza, which is a pharmaceutical. But a lot of people, their doctors will put them on metformin. You should ask for Victoza as well, because it's another peptide with no side effects at all. Big pharma is not all bad. I mean, after the hit and run accident, I was in inpatient care for the better part of 2 years. And I progressed faster than other people in similar condition because of Humatrope, which is by Eli Lilly. But that stuff put my brain back online so that I could start to learn how to do everything all over again.
Good. I'm glad you made that distinction. Same. There are, even though I mentioned earlier, I cut out a lot of meds. There's a few things I do take to keep from blood clotting, and they don't mess with my head or anything. And so I'm with you. We can't just throw the whole thing out. I mean, I was a medic in the military, so I definitely see the value, but we do have to make those distinctions, though, still.
Yeah. And another thing, and Dana, I'm sure you know about this one, is NAD+. I don't know why it works. I don't care why it works, but I get it by IV every week, and I take it by dissolvable pill every day. That stuff has really improved my cognitive function. And some other things are cheap on Amazon. Is alpha lipoic acid sustain by Jarrow. So in 2009, I desperately needed to lose a bunch of body fat for this project that I was going to be working on. And Tim Ferriss told me to take alpha lipoic acid sustain by Jarrow, which is very cheap on Amazon. NAC sustain. I don't even know what that stands for, by Jarrow. It's cheap on Amazon. And CLA, which you can get cheap on Amazon. The combination of those three will burn body fat off of you without stimulating you in any way.
Wow, that's really interesting. You mentioned those. I happen to know the NAC and the alpha lipoic acid are directly used to remove heavy metals from the body. Now you got to be careful because it can remove so much that it can overload you. But think about this. Toxins are stored in the fat a lot of times. Your body is highly intelligent and it's doing the best it can with what you give it. And so it stores toxins in the fat because that's sort of out of the way of everything else, right? It's also a reason why people tend to get arthritis in their joints is because your body is smart enough not to let it be like in your blood or in your heart or in your liver, places where it needs to get out of the way and let those things function, right? So the toxicity is stored in the fat. And so if you're taking these things, then your body is like, okay, I've gotten rid of these. Because if it burns your fat, then that stuff's going to be released in your body. It's going to overwhelm you. So a lot of people are retaining their fat because their fat is toxic. And so your body doesn't want to burn the fat because it doesn't want to overwhelm you with the toxicity that will result as you burn that fat. And so you get the toxins out and your body is less overwhelmed with toxicity. It's like, okay, now we can burn this fat because it's not going to like kill us. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Another reason I take NAC Sustain is that I have switched to no red meat. I'm only eating wild caught salmon or sushi grade tuna and not much of either one of those. And mainly I'm eating organic broccoli, pressure cooked, and organic spinach, pressure cooked. And this sounds gross, but it basically takes away your need for toilet paper eating this way.
Wow.
No, you're right. Because I know I don't mind talking about this stuff because like I'm so into health. Like people don't like to talk about that, but what it looks like at the toilet is a direct, result of like your health. And there's like the perfect, poop, so to speak. And so whenever you have the perfect diet and it's covered with mucus, there's nothing there to clean up. So you're totally right. There's like a whole field of people that study that, like you're basing their health on what it looks like down there. So yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah. And back to the thing with, men turning to girls. This has been going on for so long. There are two brands of water that I have found that don't have BPA in them. One of them doesn't have BPA or BPS. I don't know what BPS is, but it's listed on there. It's Penta is the one with no BPA or BPS, and Essentia is the one with no BPA in it. That's actually listed on the bottle.
So because the bottles themselves don't have BPA in them, I guess.
Usually in the
plastic bottles that the water is carried in, unless it says no BPA.
Yeah. So what water do you drink?
I'm always home. I have a reverse osmosis purifier in my sink, and it just pulls out everything. And then I put the good minerals back in. So I'll have the water from, and then I just fill up a stainless steel container and carry that around rather than plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the men and women, there's one of my best friends is this guy named Jay Campbell, and you can find him on YouTube. So what he's done is he's found all these doctors that will that do the hormone replacement and all that stuff. His first book, which a couple of us convinced him to write, was it was TRT, the Testosterone Revolution. But now he changed it to TOT because it's not replacement, testosterone replacement revolution. It's testosterone optimization in both men and women. But he is now the world authority on hormone optimization in the body, and he cares about it when you can't afford. He's tried to put together information so that you can find all this stuff in a way that's affordable. So Jay Campbell.
Okay, I'll definitely make a note of that because I hadn't heard of him before. But I can't stop or go without saying this one little tidbit on the topic of how we are destroying our guys, men with taking away their testosterone is porn, because there have been studies done showing that heavy porn users are draining their testosterone. And I don't know if you've heard that, and there's so many impacts, not just, there's so many impacts of this on people's psychology. Because, reproduction is God's gift, and, it's good because God wanted it to be good, because it'd go forth and multiply, right? So it's the devil is like taken something that's so natural and beautiful and distorted it and repackaged it, and is sending it back to the world in a violent way, degrading way. And so what's happening is a lot of men are having ED, erectile dysfunction. Young men, so many young men are having ED now, and they actually can't be with a woman that's real.
Yeah.
Because they've accustomed their brain to only, be turned on through images that can never be replicated, and probably wouldn't want to be replicated. So there's a whole movement of men that have started calling NoFap. There's this, and this has nothing to do with Christianity and like what God said, not.
I'm one of those, by the way, but please continue.
Yeah, no. And here's the crazy thing is that there's these entire huge groups of young men that are supporting each other to not, look at porn and do this. And they're finding phenomenal results. Things like their confidence comes back. They're holding their shoulders back, and they're looking people in the eye. Now, how many young men do you know that carry themselves in a posture that's very defeated? They feel very insecure. They're emasculated. They're told that women have all the power. Go girl. Well, what about go men? What happened to our men? What about our men?
Exactly.
And that's why they're killing themselves, because they have no place in this world. And so this like NoFap movement, I'm fascinated by it, because it has nothing to do with, what God asked us to do in that way, not to lust after another person, for example. But they're finding out that their own natural pheromones, because before, when they were doing this all the time, they couldn't get a woman, and they desperately wanted to, right? So they stopped masturbating, and then suddenly they got women all over them. Their own pheromones are having a chance to remain in the body. Their testosterone levels are higher. And so it's just an amazing, I'm totally fascinated by it right now. And I want to do a video about just how dangerous porn is to our society, our culture, and how it's destroying our young men, because the dopamine that is released through the process of porn looks exactly like drug abuse in the brain. And so what happens to someone who's stuck on drugs, they have to get the first time it makes them high, right? But the second time the same amount doesn't. So they have to do more. Well, unfortunately, that applies to porn too. So people wind up going into darker and darker and, really things that you wouldn't think would turn anybody on, but they need that in order to perform what should be a normal, beautiful thing. So it's just really fascinating. And, I'm so happy to see this group of young men who have figured it out on their own and who are coming into their own healthy masculine. It's not a toxic masculine. Masculine can be beautiful and healthy. And that's what women actually want at the end of the day, is a strong man, believe it or not,
Absolutely.
Tell you that. But that's
another reason I'm telling you, I have risked my life and reputation to narrate The Rational Male. And I tell these guys, porn is completely unnecessary, because it is possible to attract a wonderful woman, which is another reason I narrated those books, because guys they're just not taught this stuff. They're not taught to be a strong man. They're taught to let their sensitive side show instead of having the tools. I narrated these audiobooks because men need the tools to improve themselves and to improve their lives. And porn is unnecessary because they can attract a woman. A guy who is, there's this 10 scale, right? A guy who is a 4 can at least improve himself to be a 7. And it doesn't even have to do with looks. And plus, if you're a married man, and let's face it, your wife, she doesn't want you anymore, and she resents you for all these different reasons. Well, it's because you need to become the rational male, the title of those books. And the way to do that is to, if you want her to become attracted to you, she's probably on the verge of leaving you. You don't even know it. If you want her to become more attracted to you, first thing you do is start going to the gym a few days a week, and work on trying to make more money, in an honest way. Whatever you need to do to make more money, do it. because she's going to be like, wow. Because in a woman's mind, you going to the gym a few days a week or even every day, in her mind, she's thinking, if I were preparing to divorce him, I would start going to the gym. And I would do this, and I try to make more money. So those two things will spark genuine desire in a woman, because that automatically makes her think that you're going to leave her. So,
well,
I mean, it's crazy, but it just seems.
And these are people who've had relationships and who have, been in marriages and different relationships and things. But what my heart really goes out to the young boys who accidentally or through another kid, they see their first introduction to sex is through porn, from some terrible website, and then that's what they see, and that's what they affiliate with what should be love, and a connection with your life partner. And so they've only ever had that. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but in Japan, there's a whole epidemic of young men who never leave their parents' house. There's a name for it. Somebody in the chat will say it. But basically, they never leave, and it's because the desire to go out and to
herbivores.
There it is. Herbivores.
What is it?
It's called herbivores, like HERBIVORES.
Oh, no. This is a Japanese word.
Okay.
That has to do with these young men who never leave their house, and a lot of them wind up just staying home and playing video games well into their 20s, late 20s. They never want to go out and get a job. So what's happening is that you're rewarding yourself, with the porn or whatever. And in Japan, it's actually these cartoons, which is anime, so it's even more bizarre. It has even more bizarre impacts on your brain. It's a literal cartoon, which is never going to happen in real life, right?
I did an article on that on one of the shows just about a month ago, and the number one most viewed type porn in Japan is the animated stuff with tentacles. It's like these creatures that have tentacles that get inside women and stuff. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it's called hikikomori, HIKIKOMORI. And so these parents are totally embarrassed that their child is like 30 now, living at home, won't get a job, and it's because the dopamine is a really powerful thing, right? It's this expectation drug, and it's meant to like make you go out and explore new lands or take a risk and get a new job. Like, it's there to make you like press against the boundaries of what you're comfortable with. But whenever you're into drugs and you're overstimulating your dopamine receptors, or if you're caving into porn and doing that way, it does the same thing. It fills up your dopamine receptors to where you actually, everything in life becomes like a dial tone. One of the things I heard, because I jumped into some of these chats with these men that are these nofap chats, I wanted to see what they're talking about. And they were sharing with each other such intimate things like, before nothing made me happy, and now that I've stopped masturbating, basically, I can like get teared up over something that is so normal and so beautiful. And so that's what I'm seeing with the millennials, is that they're just meh about everything, and this causes it literally chemically in the brain, on top of the fact that it takes out the testosterone, which you were talking about earlier, which is so incredibly important. So I love that you brought this up and that you called in about it, because I'm really on fire about it right now, because I see our men suffering, and I really want to spread the word that you got to just resist it for a while. What is it? Resist the devil and he will flee from you. It's hard at first. This is an addiction, hardcore addiction. So, but God,
And on that note, there are virtually no masculine pastors. They become like game shows. And, the mark of the beast, it's coming probably within the next 12 years. And if you take it, it is one of the unforgivable sins. And there's this pastor in Alabama that is the pastor of the second biggest megachurch in the country. And I was shocked because somebody sent me a video of one of his sermons where he was telling people they are going to take the mark of the beast. These churches may be the administrators of the mark of the beast. And the only pastor that I know of that preaches the truth about the entire Bible is Dean Odell. And he's a man, an actual man. His church has like 30 people that attend, but every week there are about 17,000 people watching from all over the world, his sermons, and they call him their pastor because they can't find a church with a actual man teaching the entire Bible that knows all of the Hebrew and Greek about everything. So if you're a man and you are disillusioned with the church, Dean Odell is the channel on YouTube. I grew up with a guy, he was a total hellion, beating everybody up in high school, doing all the drugs. I mean, it was crazy. But this guy totally has turned his life around to Jesus. I mean, and I didn't even know that all these gifts at Pentecost, it's not a Pentecostal church, but I didn't know that we are supposed to have those gifts, of tongues and being able to heal people and cast out demons. I had no idea. So now I'm praying that I will have all of those gifts just from learning from Pastor Dean Odell. He told me starting in 2009, he said, Sam, you have to leave Hollywood. You're going to be killed. And he just kept drilling me. And I'm like, oh, things are going good here. There's no way I can leave. And sure enough, I was killed by a hit and run driver the first day of 2014. And
Wow.
so, it made me start listening to everything he said. And, because I didn't believe, I've been taught in the Southern Baptist Church that modern prophets didn't exist. But, every man needs a strong Christian man, in their life. And, that's another reason I watch his sermons. But the other thing is, Dana, I'm so glad that this is so important to you and to KJ, because the other part of it is people are easier to control if their marriages are in disarray, are ruined. If they're not bonded together, if she resents him, then people are easier to control. And now people are just not getting married at all.
Right.
And, when you got people shacking up, it's keeping them from Jesus. And if you got people shacking up, there's no, real permanent bond to hold them together. So it makes people easier to control. And it makes the new world order that's coming come a lot faster.
Totally agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. And if you look at the destruction of the family that was already in full swing by the time I was a kid, absolutely, that's what we're seeing. There are hardly any shows. I don't let my daughter watch shows that have kids talking back to their parents or anything like that. So we pretty much don't watch television because that was what I noticed about Disney. It was like the very first thing. These are really popular kid-friendly shows, and they're all rolling their eyes at their parents. Dude, I'd have had a backhand in my face so fast if I tried that with my parents. Like you respect your parents, and just it doesn't exist in the media. So I totally agree with you. It's the destruction of the family that makes people able to be more controlled. And I didn't understand that before, but it makes sense because God made us to follow him. And so the beast is using that same desire within us to follow something worth following and has stuck in this beast system that destroys a family. There are like none of these movies that I watched in the 80s that I love so much. I'm like, oh, I can show her that one. And then I look through it and like Molly Ringwald's in the back of the car having sex with some guy she just met 15 minutes before. I'm like, oh my God, I was watching that when I was like 11, 12 years old. And it's because guess what? The beast knows that the more partners you have before you get married, the less likely of a chance statistically that you'll stay with your husband or wife. He knows all this stuff. It's meant to be freedom, and it's sold in the package of being freedom when it's total enslavement. It's totally the opposite.
Hey, KJ, is anybody else waiting?
Brian Murray is patiently waiting, but I think he's all right. Let me look over here. Brian, thanks for your patience, man. So I don't want you to feel rushed, Sam. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to encourage you listening are watching, wherever you are. I support KJ on Patreon. And, you know, a lot of people have these tiers where it's like, okay, for this, you're going to get this, but for this much more, you're going to get this. And then this much more, you're going to get this. His first tier, I mean, his only tier is $1 or more a month. And I mean, you know,
You're so
YouTube, I mean, he used to be able to make a pretty decent living off of YouTube, but with all the changes, you can't make a living on YouTube. And the super chats, I think they take 50% of that money.
Yeah, that's what sucks about that too.
But you know, if you want your money to all of it to go to KJ, and KJ, you might put a PayPal link or something on there. I mean, you can make it where it's a hidden link or a link that goes to something to get to there, so that they can't dox you or something. But I would recommend that you whatever channels you can find for people to pay you, definitely do it. But please, I mean, I get so much value out of this. I mean, since I've been out of Hollywood, I'm totally out of the loop on everything that's going on. And KJ is risking his life every day to put this information out. This is a matter of life or death, because he has such a large audience. And do you think the industry wants people to know the truth about all this stuff? I mean, think about the number of people that have come to Jesus Christ because of KJ. Think about the number of people that have completely changed their lifestyle, realizing that the way that the world really works. It's, you know, it's just that it's if you even if you have only $1 that you can spare every month, give it to KJ. You get so much from him.
I know, Sam. That's so humbling, man. I appreciate it, and just thank you. You know, I've got to learn to be a better salesman myself. But like I'm saying, I'm doing a show in a couple days on YouTube, and that's not going to be telling everybody is that I may have to branch out in the next few months. I mean, so since I got these sponsorships, I have a connection at YouTube, so to speak. Okay, it's somebody that works for the company, and I guess they can talk to YouTube. And anyway, they told all of us that are with this group that, you know, all the noble gold and all that, all of us that support these people, they sent us an email and said that in March or April coming up, it's going to be the biggest so-called purge YouTube has ever performed. And we're already starting to see all the pieces fall into place for that. So, you know, I've got to start looking at, you know, I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep fighting and praying that I get to stay. And I think my videos are, you know, like I said, it doesn't matter what I think. It's spiritual anyway, you know? So, and again, if everything was smooth going, then that might be a bit of an issue too. So it's okay. There's some blowback, but you know, I may have to look at a life off YouTube someday. All of us might have to soon.
Yeah. How many of your YouTube videos are demonetized, KJ?
Gosh, I mean, you know, most of them, and honestly, I don't even monetize most anymore just because I've got the sponsorship and Patreon help. So I'm not looking to be a millionaire, but all that together kind of balances it out. And and also
monetizing them just because you want to be considered, because that's their parameters coming up, right? That anybody who's not monetarily viable will be booted.
Well, here's the catch, and I know what you're saying. Here's the catch, and here's why I don't. Because a lot of them that I try to monetize get demonetized after they review, and what they're about to do is, I think they're going to look at your channel overall and see how many of your videos have been demonetized after a review. That's going to be a part of the process.
Yeah.
I've kept that to a minimum, you know, like I know what I can get away with most of the time. So that's why I never monetize KG's What Happened, because I talk about all the horrors in the world. So
yeah.
You know, so anyway, but thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it. Now, I will leave links below. Anybody who wants to support the work, I appreciate it, because that really is where we're going. YouTube's put my channel in a digital ghetto, is what I call it. They've done it to other people too, where there's no more growth. I put up a message on my community tab a week ago and said, aha, I finally made 470,000 subs.
And you went backwards.
Now I'm backwards. Right now I'm back at 469. Yeah, so... You know, that's not normal, guys. My channel is seriously stuck, you know, in a YouTube vortex. So,
and I got to tell you something else. I'm selfish, extremely selfish. I want you to make feature-length films, because your talent is it's just insane. It's ridiculous. And even, you know, in listening to you narrate your own videos, I mean, you're an actor, you're a voice actor, you're a world-class editor. and you've been a medic, so you're better than a lot of doctors out there. I mean, the things that you can do, but to you that's watching right now and listening, I just want to encourage you to definitely at least give $5 to KJ's Patreon every month, because I want to see his feature length films. This guy he's the best. I mean, and Hollywood misses him.
Oh, shucks, Sam.
But
You're the reason I've been saying lately that I'm going to do that. That in my future now, because of you, Sam was on my last show for a bit. Then we emailed, then we talked on the phone. I knew I had to talk to him with his experience and everything. And he's the reason why now I'm looking at doing an audio book. And then also I want to work on making a feature here in Oklahoma where I live. I could do it really cheap. So I'm putting stuff together already, man. I'm praying about it, but thank you, Sam. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you got how much equipment you have, but it's equipment. I mean, even if you had an extra $1,000 a month, I mean, you could buy whatever you needed to be able to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a way. That's one thing I learned after going through school, and I made so many short films for 4 years. I doing everything from producing, writing, directing, everything in the middle, that I know it can be done. And I think if I could get my hands on a red camera eventually, which wouldn't be too hard these days, they're digital, but they look like film with bright filters. You know what I mean? So something like that, and just get a crew. I live near a college. I'm sure that I can get the kids out of the acting, class or whatever, maybe to join in. Who knows, so we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll see.
I've kept y'all forever. I apologize. So I'll let you get on to the next person. But yeah, Dana, thank you for coming on and for telling people on your channel about KJ.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for sharing what you've been through. And glad God reached in and grabbed you out of Hollywood like he did him, because it's happening with a lot of people right now, which is why they are finally pulling the plug on YouTube. So we'll still have some kind of place to come out and speak. I'm sure he's not, because there's still a lot of people to reach.
Yeah, he'll find us a way. Hey, Matt, thanks again. I love you, man. And I'll talk to you off of YouTube this week. Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. See you later. All right, Brian, man, thanks so much for your patience. You've been a wonderful man. And if I don't know if you can hear me or not, let me see here. But Brian, you're up, man. Look, he may be asleep. You guys can't see it. I can, but all you can see is a hand holding a phone. I'm not even kidding. Can you see it, Dana?
While he's waiting for us to stop talking.
There he is. I think he's trying on a different line here. Okay, let's see. This might work. I see you trying to come in, Brian. Let's see what happens here. Matt, where'd you pop in from? Okay, I'll get you next, Matt. No? Okay, well, I'll get you in a little bit. Brian, you should be on with me, man. Can you hear us?
I tried.
No, I hear you now.
I just want everyone to be blessed, and the signal's bad, so don't even talk. In Jesus' name, I want everyone to be blessed. KJ, bless you. Your shows are so awesome. I don't know what's going on with the signal here, but it's terrible, and I just want everyone to have a great night. And less is more. Remember that, not more. Don't just keep ingesting things. Stop and try to listen to what your body's telling you and do less. Because your body's really not made to take in things. But anyone, be blessed. I can't even hear anything. I'm guessing.
I can hear you. Can you hear
everyone
me?
Have a great night.
Yeah, Brian.
KJ, you're just awesome.
Brian,
no,
thanks.
I can't hear any. Oh, you can hear me? Well, let me just do my quick story then.
Yeah, please do, man. Go ahead.
My story is about all of my life. And when I had my son Osiris back in 2001 or 2, he had turned out to have it, but it finally flared back up. And it turns out that eczema is caused by stress. And no doubt I have a little baby. But anyway, so it was called Dr. Thomas Cowan, and he's now in California. He's a naturopath. And basically, I had been putting cortisone on my wound. It was behind my legs and on my arms, and I've had it forever. And I'm 50 now, and this was 20 years ago. I haven't had it in 20 years. And so upon reading the book and talking to him, it turns out that the stress had caused my adrenal gland to go on overload. And essentially, I was putting cortisone 10 on the wound, and I shut the adrenal gland has two parts. Well, the second part of the adrenal gland creates cortisone, and it is a natural process. So I was putting cortisone on from the pharmaceutical giants, and I just basically shut that whole process down. And year after year, I was putting it on, and basically I just shut my body's off the ability to do this for myself. So I talked to him and I read up on what he was talking about, and he got me some soap that made from animal fat, not normal soap. It has to be just made by animal fat, like the old days. And he gave me bovine adrenaline, which was like a green penny of them. And essentially, he just said, you just have to suffer out not putting cortisone on your body. And so I went, and it took about 3 months. But after that, my body's ability to create cortisol resumed. And so the moral is stop putting things in your body and let your body heal itself, really, is what I learned. You have to understand that your body does pretty well. I eat once a day. I do drink a little beer, smoke a little weed, but my health is really perfect, other than that one instance of the stress which had come into my life on numerous times. It comes in with money mainly, but having a newborn child was intense, to say the least. And they would reach for this cream and put it on my body, and I was killing my own ability to cure this problem. And so I listened to him, and I suffered out the time, and my body's adrenal gland itself and produced its own cortisone. And so I thought that was a great life lesson on when we go to self-medicate ourselves, we have to be very careful. The one thing I realized is when I'm not feeling great, I should look over what I've ingested, ban the things that are coming into my body, and there's possibly a solution taking in more things, the milk. And then you have to learn to eat locally. People have brought up honey. Well, honey's only good if it came from your area. And so less more, do less. Fasting is great, but you don't have to fast, but just don't overwhelm your body with chemicals, and your body will learn to heal itself. And that's the only story I wanted to share. I can't hear anything, so I'm not even going to try to talk to you. But the book was Fourfold Path to Healing by Dr. Thomas S. Cowan. He's out in California now, but it's really a book that promotes you looking at your diet and trying to assess what thing is causing you the ailment, and if you can, of all those things after you're recording, and try to do that. But try to eat less, try to drink less, try to smoke less, and you'll find that anytime you do less of anything, you're just going to. But anyway, and also, of course, God has helped me through this process as well. But this was a stress moment, and I was spiraling out of control using the pharmaceutical method. And it turns out, and the one interesting point of this book that he wrote was that he studied all of the tribes all over the world back in the 20s. Derwin was his name. And he discovered that they all had healthy teeth. They were all perfectly healthy. And the one thing that was that they all consumed animal fat on one level or another. And of course, they didn't consume sugar, very little, possibly through fruit. So remember, just take it easy on your body. And I brought it up earlier. In the Garden of Eden, we did not eat. And the first sin, although it may have been sex, the second one is surely, probably, most likely not meant to eat. And so I think it's important to realize that any type of thing that you're putting, even something organic and very healthy, causes a reaction in your being. And so you should think very heavy. And, we talk about the Wi-Fi and the lights. Well, these things are all happening all around us, and you can't really escape them, but you can down the on it by not having them around you. But I have Wi-Fi and I play video games. I'm fine. But you really can't overdo it with food. You don't see. You have to eat locally. The bacteria needs to be local. If you eat fruit from Chile, you're getting a whole different thing. So you be very careful. And it's not always possible for most people to. You should try a little harder. And then the other thing is to eat things that are in season. Right now, we're into winter squash. We're into butternut. We're not really in New Hampshire eating fruits anymore. And that's another thing you have to be very careful of. So anyway, on that, I want you all to just be blessed. Jesus loves us all, and he wants us all to be successful. And you should know that he told us he came here and he canceled our debt and sin. And we, if we believe in him as our Father, are fine. And what did he do? He fasted and he restrained himself from the world that we live in. And so if we can do that, and then we can do, like I said earlier, he came to wash his disciples' feet, then what do we have to do for each other? And so on that note, KJ, thank you so much. Your show's awesome. Just keep it a blog page or something in case they cancel YouTube, and then you can move on to another platform. We'll all follow you there. You probably make much better money anyway. So everyone be blessed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Take it easy, man. I'm sorry you couldn't hear us.
I'm so glad you could at least hear me.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, Brian. I just cut you off. Darn. I didn't mean to. I was just finally getting through to him.
That's all right. I think he knew. That's great. He had some good points in there.
He did. Man, you know what? We have one person left. It's Matt. And Dana, you've been a trooper. I didn't expect you to be able to stick around. So thanks so much. And everyone loves it, man. I see the chat's been going crazy asking questions.
It's fun. It's you know, a lot of us that know about this world being the way it is feel kind of alone because we have our people on YouTube, but then there's nobody really in your real life that knows these deep truths. So it's always fun. I think that's why people love being in the chat. They feel like they can connect to a group of people that has this foundational truth. So
I know, right?
I've been enjoying it a lot. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, for sure. I want to throw out one more thing to Brian Murray. I meant to say that you've been a friend on YouTube for a very long time. So I want to tell you, thank you for that as well, man. Like you've been in there for years and years and years. So Matt, we're going to go and bring you in, man. Let me see, Matt. You may have to unmute it on your side. There you go.
Hey.
So
I stuck around because
oh gosh, I forgot, Matt. I thought that you came in after. My bad. Sorry.
No. So I was just hanging around, and I just want to say thank you again, everybody, for being I don't know. I think it's all paths lead to Jesus.
Yes, sir. So thanks, Matt, man. That was my mistake. I still appreciate your final message, man, but I guess I'll let you go because I guess it looks like it's about time for us to close her down. Did you want to say anything just in closing to everybody?
Take care, and just watch out for I guess deception.
Yes, sir.
Lies and because no matter how hard we try, I don't think we're not going to become like God. So
there you go. Thanks, Matt. Take it easy, man. I appreciate you. All right, man. Well, hey, I guess on that note, Dana, that pretty much concludes it. Wow, we did almost 4 hours. I'm going to do a quick prayer. Is that cool?
I love that, KJ. I love that you've started doing this. Thank you so much.
Thanks. You're welcome. Here we go, guys. I just want to say, wow, Heavenly Father, I always have to start off by just saying thank you for the fact that I still have a platform here. And then also just thank you for all the people. Thanks for this group of people. It keeps me humble and it helps me always remember this isn't just my show. It's about all of us being able to connect because of all the craziness in the world. And so many of us can clearly see what's going on. It's definitely not the majority. So everyone's been looking for a place to come together, you know. So thank you for letting me be one of those places. Thanks for these wonderful people. Keep us from living in fear, Father, too. And I know you know this goes for me as well. please keep us not in that state. Keep us protected from that spirit. And just remember that we're on the team of the most amazing God ever that created everything. So thank you for that. And I love you. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thanks so much, KJ.
Hey, you're welcome. Dana, you're awesome. Thank you again for joining me. Thanks to the moderators. Thanks to all you wonderful people out there. I'll leave a link to Dana's channel below, and then I'll also have links to my stuff if you want to support the work. So until next time, you guys, I'll have other shows and videos coming up in the next few days. God bless y'all and take care. See you later.
Bye-bye.